You can start. I'll shut up. Oh, got it.
We're on, Kevin. It is live, my brother.
Hello.
I'm just going to share it to the forum, Telegram, off my Facebook, and we shall begin. I'll hand it over to you.
Oh,
You can chirp for a bit. Welcome.
yeah. How are we all, everybody? As you join in, everybody's all right. Got over the dreadful loss to the country. Yeah. Um, all's good here. Not too bad. Been bit up and down myself, but not anything like I was a couple of years ago. But bit tired, bit worn out. Um, I'm trying to multitask here, people, and I'm a bloke, so we all know where that's going to end up, don't we? Right.
In a world of pain.
Yes, for sure. Or a world of silence while I forget that we're broadcasting and I stare at the YouTube. Right, that should bit more coal in that tablet. That should get going in a minute. Not saying it's slow or anything. Uh, yeah, so situation normal, really. Grabbing the last of the rays of sun as much as I can. I've definitely saturated myself with sunshine this year. It's probably the first year in about 15 years I've been able to. A little bit last year, but yeah, this year much more. So I'm trying to keep some colour in myself before I start looking like a corpse again about November, December for a few months. But it's all good. I don't know why my camera just seems to be really dark in here. Or my camera does anyway.
That's it. I've done it in
Could
record
be that
time.
I'm wearing a dark top. Yeah. Sorted. Right. What's happening here?
So
Hey.
tonight's title, Depression of Recession. We are in session. We're going to look at self-sustain and for reasons of avoiding the pain. So we'll wait till some scribes join, and we shall ask for people's hints, tips, and tricks, life hacks. Hacktivists, give us your life hacks with regards to energy, fuel, as opposed to the traditional candles and what we've known in the past. So, yeah, I'd like to let Anders in and for us to discuss the way that we can maximise our credits and whether it be food, groceries, energy, heating, recycling, alternative energy sources.
Oh my God.
Hello, Anders, Swedish sovereign.
Where are you? There he is, look. All lit up. He's under grow lights.
He's a plant.
He's very quiet. I know that. What's up with him? Yeah, my hair has gone light on it now. That's all the sunshine I've been in.
Yeah, looking a bit blonde, eh? Gone from Swiss Tony to Alphonse
Swiss
Fasoni.
Tony. Oh dear. Excellent. Swiss Tony. Is that I've been demoted from Fat Tony.
Anders, are we hearing you tonight? It says your audio's on.
I can hear him.
No, it's the Swedish control room online.
Sweet. Punch it. That usually works for me.
Yeah, we'll let him. We'll let him. Give us a shout when you're ready. It looks like it's frozen. He's had a glitch.
Glitch in the matrix.
So if we've got anybody in the
Have you
chat room,
noticed?
go
Can I
on,
just
Kevin.
say this quick, Dave?
Yeah,
Have you noticed that his Anders surname you can nearly spell Maelstrom? Yeah.
I did notice that. Anderson, son of Anders. I was looking at the Swedish map and some documentary. I wasn't looking at it purposefully, but there was a story on about beasts of the lake around the world, equivalent to Loch Ness, Stormzy, Storsey, or something like that. They was talking about the lesser spotted humped lake, Leviathan, and it was around somewhere near Anderson, Norway, maybe not necessarily Sweden. But then I thought of Anders straight away, son of Anders. Hello, hello, hello. So, if the chat room wants to contribute tonight with regards to any of the topics, if you've got any questions or comments, or you want to talk about Department for Work and Pensions and their affiliated agencies, Capita, Maximus, and the gang, then we have some good news from Kevin with regards to a tribunal. We'd just like to reiterate that he has a process he's devised with a man called Graham, and if that process is followed verbatim, word for word, and you don't alter or change anything, and you stick to the criteria that they've laid out, then he has 100% success rate with regards to winning at tribunal. So there could be a few different reasons why you are facing a sanction and failure to perform in the eyes of the agencies affiliated with the DWP. And Kevin so far has managed to, well, with Graham's help, but he's more of a silent sovereign. But yeah, would you like to elaborate any more on that, Kevin? Then, so kick it off.
Yeah. Well, this particular one, this situation is something they've actually put me through. So it was really quite funny, almost in the same way, in the same, it was almost sort one thing out, right? Well, it was what they did with me, but basically, their claim, I won't bore everybody, but basically, if you get asked to an assessment, send you a letter, right? And just say you don't attend it, telephone, whatever. Now, the process is you then get from the DWP a letter called a BF223, which basically says you had an assessment appointment on such and such, you failed to attend. Here's your chance to tell us why. So you can either write it out on this sheet of paper. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is important. A BF223 form is always hand addressed. It's never like a printed brown envelope job. It's always hand addressed from Belfast. So that's the process. So you can either phone up and say, well, I didn't go because of X, Y, Z, or you can write it out and send it back to them. But that's the process. So what they did to me and what's just happened to this what just happened, 6 months is taken to get it into tribunal, which is a long old wait, to be honest with you. But basically, what they said was they stopped her money. So she phoned up and said, "Why?" And they're like, well, "You didn't attend the assessment." What assessment? I never even got notified of it. So, and of course, they send everything domestic post. They do that on purpose so they can tell you they've sent stuff. And as far as they're concerned, if it's gone in the post, you've received it. But they should be sending it business post, especially if it is something that could get your money stopped. Surely that's important that they know you've got it, regardless of how you react to it. But that's not how they play the game. So exactly the same thing with me. No letter here. I had a witness. So did this lady. Her daughter goes round there. So it was, and this happened. Where are we sat yesterday morning? This was so taking 6 months to get in there, and they basically went in and explained. Well, the administrator said, why didn't you attend? The answer was, how could I have attended something I'd not been notified of? And basically, there's a few words exchanged. And the lady, she has a little bit of there's not a language barrier, but she gets herself a little bit twisted. So her daughter asked if she could sort of speak on her behalf, and the administrator asked who she was. She said, "I'm my daughter," and explained, I go through her post, etc., to make sure and never seen any of it. So anyway, that was that really. And then right at the end, she actually put in an affidavit that said exactly the same. Just this was never received, never seen, blah blah blah. Sworn affidavit. So I know she submitted it. Well, whether they've kept hold of it or what, I don't know. I shall find out speaking to her on Tuesday. But basically, well, I would have taken this as good news. They basically said to go and wait outside for 10 minutes. That's always a good sign. I mean, I've had them decided and told to me right there and then in the room. But sometimes they drag it out. So I will write to you and all that, which is normally a pain in the ass. But yeah, so basically, and the comments were, I think she's got the comments were that the judge found her and her daughter to be completely believable in every way, no problem whatsoever. So that was that reinstated. But as I say, this is what the bastards will do. 6 months. 6 months that's taken to get corrected, and that we can't do anything about that. They'll delay when you ask for a mandatory reconsideration. They'll delay that. It's all done on purpose. It literally, and as I said to one of the administrators in one of my own, when me and Graham were in there, and we were having a chat after the decision, invited to have a chat, I might add, by the administrator. Pointing out how long it takes. I asked, I said, well, when do you inform the DWP? She said, well, they'll be informed, said, at worst by the end of the day, which I think is about 4 o'clock with them. But usually it's done in like sort of in between cases. So if I've won, that gets sent to, they know within a couple of hours that I've won, and then they'll delay you 7 or more weeks. So I said to this lady, right, you give them 7 days to sort it out. Oh, she did say, apparently the administrator said, if you haven't got your money within 7 days, please contact us. That's what the administrator said.
Oh, please contact us. That's all right then.
Yeah. So hopefully, I say give them a week and then tell them it's £50 a day. So we'll chase them, and then you give it a week, let a couple of £100 build up, and then phone the court and say there's nothing been done. I'm waiting for my money. Yeah, and this lady's got a story. She's really been through some shit. She lived on the streets, homeless. Gets back together. The only godsend in all this was because obviously her rent because what happens is, as soon as you get sanctioned, the DWP are really great at telling you if you're getting housing benefit. They'll tell the council straight away, so they'll stop all your housing benefit. So we thought that was going to be a problem, but that's carried on being paid. So that's one less thing to sort out in this case. Normally that doesn't happen. The other thing is when you do win, the DWP don't then go to the council and go, I've won the appeal, their benefits back on. You have to do that, which is ridiculous. As soon as quick enough to cut you off. But anyway, ultimately, I think as a result, if anybody else gets that treatment where they've said they've sent you a letter and you genuinely haven't received it, but here's the other place it fell down. If I just go back a step or two, so she didn't receive the appointment letter. So the next thing should have been a BF223, and she didn't get that either. Now, come on, one bit of post possibly not being delivered is one thing. Two from the same place not being delivered. I know it was never sent. It was never ever sent. This is what they do. This is because we won. We got her PIP corrected earlier this year when they jerked her about with that. So in that case, we did it with, I think, 2 letters, or it might have been 1 letter. And then within 5 weeks, they corrected everything, paid her. So there was no tribunal there. But, they're absolute bastards. And now they did her on ESA within a couple of weeks, 3, maybe 4 weeks of winning the other one. This is what they do. I've been there as well. They're absolute bastards. They want to hurt you, and they want to make it really hard. And they say even when you win, they'll then drag it out for another 2 months before you get your money, if you let them, or more. So no, fair play to her. I mean, it was very simple. You know, hers. You've got to remember the questions they're asking you, which is all they want to know is why didn't you attend? In this case, that's what it was. Why didn't you attend? Now, if you get an assessment, you don't attend. The process we actually use in general is we just go, well, I'm more than happy to be assessed, but these people aren't qualified. I'm not required to hand my health down and blah, blah. There's loads of it. I won't bore you all with it here. So if people started just using that, the grounds that it's totally unlawful what they're doing, and you're submitting your healthcare to your medical healthcare to idiots, which is what you're doing, then even if you get sanctioned, which even in the face of all this evidence that we lay before them, they're bastards. This is how inhumane these people are. So even with the wealth of it, they'll put you through hell. You get lucky sometimes and they correct it via the paperwork. Sometimes you don't. But I've seen this pattern with so many people. You win one thing and within weeks they'll come at you for another angle. They're absolute bastards. But we still kick their asses every time. But we're 100% success rate in tribunal. We've got 100% success rate in everything we've done with the DWP. That's a fact. It's not just.
How many cases are you doing now?
Oh, mate, I don't. Do you know what? I couldn't even tell you the number. It's we're not talking hundreds. It's probably, and I don't know. Because we released it's evolved. It's come a long way from where we started with the conditional acceptance letters. I mean, you don't even need to do letters now. You can send them the law, but you don't. There's quicker ways around it now. It's phone call, simple phone call. But
You don't know
I'm
all the
I'm going to
people that have
say,
used the process that haven't directly contacted yourself or us that have
yeah,
just picked it up, and there's got to be 50 plus that I know that you've mentioned over the course of the last 2 or so years, and then the ones that we don't know of that go to the library of SPOs and or share and send email copy, the documents and share them. So there could be potentially thousands
there's
or
got to
hundreds of
be,
thousands. Yeah.
yeah. We don't know who's got what we do, although I say the paperwork's sort of superfluous now. It's not really required. Doesn't hurt to use it to back stuff up. But um, yeah, I would say 40, 50, could even be more than that, because I've helped other people who were helping other people, if you see what I mean. Their goal was, so they were getting info from me. I was telling them what to do, and they were going out and helping some elder. Well, they were. He's not some more senior people, shall I say? Not really old, but that's what
Sure.
was going on. So
Mature is the word we'd use there.
that was,
Mature,
yeah,
Kevin.
David. That was David Evans, little David L. Evans at Rickmansworth. Do you remember him?
Yeah, he's been around for a while. Him, yeah, he's a good lad.
Yeah,
I do like him. This is it. We provide the information through our authorised outlet, and I mean outlet as in media portal, not commercial shop business outlet. But
yeah,
we control it. We have controlled documents that we update. They are, if they are controlled, they're controlled by us and the authors themselves. And then obviously Kevin, Albert, Anders, Claire, whoever it is, will edit and evolve them. Whoever produces and homegrown authored documents there, and then they are subject to change. Like the word paper-based assessment, Kevin has changed to paper-based review. So you're having a review of your situation rather than an assessment. So you would, we were talking about this the other day on the telephone. So it's important for us to, repeat these changes, this evolution of the language, of the terminology that we use, and for the reasons of being clear and transparent. So you're not having an assessment, they're reviewing the documents that you've already provided from a general practitioner, a consultant, a surgeon, basic levels of medical hierarchy, that then you would file those evidences with your claim for your entitlements. We used to call it benefits, but we call it entitlement. We used to call it assessment, we call it a review. So there is reasons for language and words, and we are evolving them, and these documents are controlled, but they are very much to be shared. They're not to be sold or profited from. They're given for free. It's part of the trust that we have. When people have a difficulty understanding how we have a trust, but trust is to be entrusted. The word trust is used a lot in statutory legal trusts, lawful trusts, and in everyday Anglo Babel Oxford English, trust in itself. We have a amount of trust given to us, and we will never take that for granted or abuse it. So you trust that we know what we're doing, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it, and we would tell you we don't really know. If we know something and it's been proven and tried and tested and it's performed well, then after several positive results, we will then come to the public and say, would you like to know about this? And that's how it works. So
yeah. I would say if anybody has got or knows anybody that is subject to this assessment nonsense, if you're obviously on the .com, downloading the FOIA that Dave's just put up, V2, and the mandatory reconsideration, really the freedom of information's got a lot of points on there that you could use over the telephone should you have to. But ultimately, you're under the Gray's report, which was 2017, I think, and they're still trying not to implement it. You are entitled to, if you're getting ESA because of illness, and you're getting maybe PIP DLA, you're entitled to a paper-based review, which means you don't have to go face-to-face or anything like that. They have to use the medical evidence that they have, your medical notes. Now, that's a double-edged sword for them, because we know that the people looking at your medical notes aren't qualified to be looking at your medical notes. You'd expect maybe a nurse, but really, you've got nobody like that looking. You've just got plebs looking at it. So the whole data thing, everything is so wrong. What they do, and these people are idiots. They're biased. But I say there's lots, unsolicited goods and services. That's what it comes under. You haven't been told they're using a third party that aren't worth a light, have got no medical license or anything like that, because you require a medical. Their words are, oh, we'll use healthcare professionals. Well, a nurse is a healthcare professional. If you go and make cups of tea in an old people's home, you'd probably be called a healthcare professional. It's not a medical professional, and it's a medical professional that has given you a not unfit work certificate, maybe even a long-term one, which I've got, but I think they're a bit different now.
Sorry, Kevin, I wasn't in here from the beginning, and then I had problem with the sound. But is this about invalidity, or is it about?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Because we are doing these claims here in Sweden too, so that would be very interesting to have a look at those papers through.
Yeah, well. And there's loads of stuff, mate. I mean, it's all up to date as well. But what it's evolved to here is a phone call. Once you get the letter saying we want to assess you, literally you phone them up and say, thanks very much. I'm not well enough. I'm not compos mentis to deal with this on the phone. What I require is a paper-based review. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Put the phone down. That's it. And then, but say it's a double-edged sword, because we know they shouldn't have your medical details. Nothing. So if they'll make a decision, I'll almost 100% guarantee you won't score any points with them. And that's when we use the freedom of information document and the mandatory reconsideration document. They're two separate documents, but you staple them together. I think they're 2 pages each, and you send them in the same envelope. So got any excuse, because mandatory reconsideration goes to one department, so it's kind of that separately, so they can't go, oh, it was all stapled together, so it went here first and then over there. But the Freedom of Information Act is you're asking for the name of the assessor. You want sight of proof of their own personal, private liability insurance, because they're overriding your doctor, don't forget. So surely if they're qualified enough to do that, they best be insured. So we ask questions like that. There's loads of stuff on there. And then we point out that these assessors, it's unsolicited goods and services, Unfair Contracts Act, even though there isn't a contract really, but, they're holding you to that. So, and then it's all the data, and then it gets even worse, because then you've got the DWP, who is looking at, they're the people that get your medical records. The DWP do, okay, from the doctor, direct from the doctor. And then, so who's looking at, what's the qualifications of the people looking at your stuff at the DWP? It's just a question you need to ask, because what is it? Somebody 2 weeks ago was working on the till at Tesco. No disrespect to cashiers intended. You know what I mean? This is how ridiculous it is. So if they can stop your money, then surely they must be qualified. So what are their qualifications? What are their medical qualifications? Not healthcare, medical qualifications. And let's see their personal indemnity insurance in case they cause me harm, loss, and injury. So there's loads of stuff in there. There's loads of stuff in there. So it's easy. It's if you have a look at it, Anders, but is it the same over where you are? Are they doing the same thing? Are you think you're getting it from the state, and it turns out the state have put it out to an agency who then put it out to two further agencies, and nobody's telling you this. And you're going and being assessed by twats.
Yeah, we actually have something called Försäkringskassan. That is the insurance pill, or if you explain it like that, it's the insurance bank, or if you explain it like that. And then
Right.
they are the one to pay out all this money, and then if your doctor have been saying that you're not able to work, then they have their own special doctors there that say that they know much better than our doctors, and they never even see you. They never even meet you. They only read the papers from non-medical persons also that have their say in this, you know. So it's really strange. But I was lucky. I was managing to coming through. So I got my invalidity that is fixed. So I'm happy about that, you know. But what I'm thinking is you have the same rules now as when you was in the European Union, yeah?
Yeah, there's nothing that that's changed in that regard.
Yes, and what I'm thinking there is that Sweden is still within the European Union, so I think they also have to follow these rules and regulations.
Yeah, I would have thought so. And there's, as I say, the biggest thing here was realizing that the people you think you're dealing with, you think it's the government, it isn't. It's a private business.
Yeah.
Just been farmed out from the department, but it isn't the department. And then, as I say, it's all private business, and it's all deceptive and contract law. That's all, you know, that's what we use. We use their own rules against them.
Yes.
That's all we do.
That's the way to go.
Well, it is when you're inside the legal realm. You know, you don't try and be clever if you're in that game, which generally involves your person, then you use the rules of that realm. You know, you don't start. I mean, yeah, you could. You know, I've corrected my status and continued to have done so for years with the DWP and many other agencies. But you know, that's the thing. They're all taking the piss. They're all profiting.
Yeah, we need to
off the stuff
stress that.
They shouldn't be.
We need to stress why we quote acts and statutes and legislation, because coming from the intellectual freedom thought movement and common law, Magna Carta, practical lawful descent, debtor creditor, A for V, equity, trust, you know, it's horses for courses, but we don't use the acts and statutes and the legislative arm of the government for ourselves, but the agents that are in office and the officers in office, holding office in such as like a public authority and agencies. What we're talking about, anybody who's in legal, professional, public office and as an officer, then they would be quoted their own rules and regulations and then we keep law separate. So we try to explain that those are only for holding them to account. To hold them to account, we have to point out their failures, their breaches, like what the information we've put into the chat room tonight there from ourselves and from others that are working with us, the notices and the duties and obligations, as well as your paperwork preceding you, how you set out your paperwork. We've come a very long way compared to where we were with regards to, postcodes in square brackets. For the purposes of clarity, the avoidances of doubt, this notice is written commanding plain English. Do not convert it to legalese. Do not securitize this instrument. Drop in the use of capital letters. Autographing rather than signing off, or signing without liability. There's many and various ways how we've come to get to this stance that we're at now. So we would point out such things as the Protection from Harassment Act, Malicious Communications Act, unfair contracts and terms, unsolicited goods and services. Somebody asked me, it gets asked quite a lot, where is it written in law about when you and Kevin and the admins talk about proof of service or service of process if you're across the pond? We don't find that in law. We hold them to account. What the most important issue is when somebody serves you or notices you or gives you a statement of intent or a notice of interest, and they serve you, but they've done it they've done it in a way that doesn't conform to the civil procedure rules and the practice directions. In a court of law, you must be able to prove everything you claim. So if you claim you've sent someone communication and they've not acted upon it and they've acquiesced tacitly, and there has been sanctions and things have happened detrimental to one's position and health, and injury, harm, loss, and neglect, disclaiming of duties has occurred, then they will say, well, we sent a letter, but we didn't get a reply. Can you prove you sent a letter? And we go on this topic. You've heard us talk about it a lot, and we talk about proof of service. It's not written in law, it's written in the practice directions of the civil procedure rules. So we utilise the postal acts, and we utilise the practice directions, which are legal processes which must be adhered to. And if they haven't been adhered to, then there isn't any claim. So if you send somebody something and you can't prove you've sent it to somebody, then you didn't send anybody anything, regardless of whether or not you did send it, and they may or may not have got it, but it may even have been successfully delivered, but the dog could have eaten it, the young stars could have got a hold of it, somebody who was visiting could have picked it up and put it on the side, it could have fallen down the back of a cabinet. There's a multitude of reasons of which things get mislaid, especially when you get to our tender ages as well. But the fact of the matter is, if you search the practice directions, you will find a civil legal requirement is found within that. Particular area to look at would be Part 6, and search for service of documents. Don't take our word for it. You'll find it within the Home Courts Procedure, Civil Rules and Practice Directions, Part 6. So that'll be housed within the justice.gov UK. It's not from myself, it's not from Kevin, it's not from Albert or Anders or anybody. It's from the .gov UK protocols with regards to the proof of service or service of process. And it's a two-way street
as well, Dave.
Sorry, go on, Kevin.
Isn't it in UPU as well?
It will be written within there, but it isn't referenced to in a court with regards to the Universal Postal Union. There is the proof.
Or the other, like one of them.
Recorded
things.
Delivery Service Act 1962, what brother Tricky Bricky gave us a while
Tricky
ago.
Bricky.
Stephen.
I know you meant Tricky Bricky.
That's his handle on Telegram. I'm just repeating what he's commonly known.
Oh dear.
Genius. Bricky!
Makes me laugh.
Bricky!
Bricky!
He'll be in a bit. He says he'll be joining us. Hopefully he'll make himself known when he arrives.
Yeah, I haven't spoke to him for a while. He did send me a message, but as I say, I've been bit of a recluse from my brain's hurting, basically.
And just a little bit of flap from me here with regards to emails and other such electronic means of communication. They would not be considered due process. When we say due process, we mean in line with the practice directions, the civil legal requirements. So there's a case reference, I believe it's Eon UK v Gill Sport or something, where the judge has ruled an email it would not be considered due process of a served notice, Civil Procedure Rule Part 6, and they threw out the claim. In summing up, ruled only the 1962 Recorded Service Act or a court processor is proof of service to due process. So you might think, well, what's a court processor? Well, a sheriff or somebody. We've all heard stories where people are out and about, and then you bump into them, and they'll say, perhaps they'll say, I know a few people that have come to me in the line of work that we do here. When they get served via, are you John Smith? Yes, I'm John Smith. In that case, here you go, and they hand them or they slap them on the face with a brown envelope, hefty wad, and you've been served. So that would be with regards to a court processor. So notices are not required to be issued by recorded or registered mail is what I want to get on to next. It's just that you need to serve papers, and you need to be able to prove that you've served papers or you've served communications, and you followed in a court of law. If you can't prove a court of law, in a business venue, a civil arbitratory lower de facto magistrate business venue for such instance, it doesn't matter what court, in any court, in any jurisprudence in front of the arbiter, you need to be able to show clean hands, honour, and that you're not the one at fault or even default position, because after the fault comes the default. The claimant would be, and you would counterclaim their claims, and you would be relying upon such things as this. So if you can't prove it, the best and simplest and cheapest way to do that is to use Royal Mail or an equivalent, which there are some, to choose from, and you don't have to lawfully issue by recorded or registered mail. It's the serving of papers that require the correct processes to be followed. So bear in mind that letters and notices of fault and default are not required to be served by recorded mail, as long as the sender can show they've attempted to communicate in meeting the pre-action protocol requirements with the last known address, etc. Then only really court papers should be sent via recorded delivery. But if an email is sent and you reply, this can be deemed as you've then accepted that as a method of communication. So be very careful how you proceed with that. If both parties were to agree, then I suppose emails can be acceptable. Emails are chat and chirp and communications, and they can be used as evidence, and they are recorded. They are useful, and they are quick, free and effective, but legally and especially lawfully, they're definitely not legal. And what was I going to add? Something about contracts you're in. We call them adhesion contracts. Like your mobile or your land loan, like your utility, internet, car finance, bank loans, and so on. You look at a decent contract and search for a standard form contract, or look at a boilerplate contract. It's a contract drafted by one party, so it doesn't actually fall into a traditional sense of a contract where meeting of the minds, two people, two souls, two men, womb men, and you sit down and you agree the terms between yourselves, and you then both have a copy of that contract and you agree to it and sign that and autograph it. So it's a constructive trustee, a constructed trust implied, when we talk about equity and trust. So contracts drafted by one party, it's a bit of an oxymoronic statement there, isn't it? But that's the legal side of things, the terminology they use. The law is indeed an ass in some respects, and it's down to us and ourselves to interpret what is actually going on there. So
huge penis, that's what the law is. An ass.
Goods
Jesus
and
Christ.
services. That yes, agreed. Sustained. Goods and services are not what we deal with. Goods, as we say, are for market. They're commercial. Taking possession of goods, order, act. Well, there's no goods here. There's private property, assets, possessions, belongings, things like that. So, services, again, yeah, you research all of that yourselves. Take from that what you want. I shall yield. Are you being served, sir? Ooh, my evening ought to burn. Remember that one? Ooh, oh, that man used to get right on my Frepney bits, Burn. That mincing blonde-haired man from that show.
John Inman, wasn't it?
John Inman. Could well be. Well recovered. Stephen's in the chat. We're just talking about you, Steve. Tricky Bricky, and bigging you up there and paying respects and utilising some information that you've passed us in the not too distant past. Lisa, hello, Lisa and James, and thank you. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow.
And James, hope you're all right.
If
nice
you can
to see you, nice.
If you can wait till tomorrow, we'll get you. I'll send an email to say hello and much love to you both. For the people, by the people is in the room, Kevin. They've put some messages regarding sanctions and.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Yeah, not urgent, but there's something there to scroll up to. Bert's in the room. Albert, if you want to join us, there is a link.
Albert.
There's a link for you in the chat group and the admin chat.
Albert's going to stay right where he is. I hope you're all right, mate. Good to see you in. Yeah, Lisa and James, bloody hell.
How is Alaska? Alaska now.
Alaska.
Anders, do you know? Did I say it right? Is it Storzy or Stormzy, the lesser spotted water creature from up your way? Have you heard of this tale or myth?
What is it, like a Loch Ness type thing?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I've heard.
Oh, yes, it's called Storsjöodjuret. And that means the big lake beast. The big lake beast. Storsjöodjuret. One word.
Interesting. I think I've come across lots of beasts like that in the 14 times. They've covered stuff like that for years, and I've been subscribed for bloody years. So yeah, that's what I've come across.
Oh, it's the dragons, they are just like the fallen angels. They were cutting off their wings. Then they have to live in the water for the rest of the time, So yeah.
We'll go hunting. We'll go hunting them when we come over to see you, Anders.
Yeah, there is loads of hunting here. It's elk, deers. You can even shoot wolves now.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Be nice just to see one. I don't know about shooting one.
Exactly.
Or any of the aforementioned creatures. No, I meant we could go on like a physical hunt, not a one that ends in violence, for the lake beast.
Yeah. Now I think that if you eat it, then you can shoot it. But if you're not going to eat it, why are you going to shoot it?
No, leave it alone if you're not going to use all of it.
Wall
boxes, you don't eat them,
There was never any cave paintings of salads, was there now?
Brilliant. Well said. I've got to tell you a story.
Okay.
Someone got blocked and slung out of the group over that post.
Really? Go on.
Oh, mate, I couldn't believe it. First comment, right, was, it was clearly a joke, right? Did everybody get it? It was clearly a joke, even though in big capital letters I put hashtag fact at the top of the post. It clearly wasn't. Okay. And this guy, I can't remember his name. He come in and I was like, my jaw was on the floor at the level of stupidity. I was like, it's a fucking joke. I couldn't believe it. It
Yeah.
stunned me. So I couldn't even respond, which I normally would have with some colourful words and said, get yourself a life. I just went, delete and block, get out. You can't be in here, you retard. No, don't say that word, get in trouble. Oh my God, clearly a joke, you know? And he's coming in there going on about as if it was meant, it was dead serious. And he explained why there wouldn't be any pictures of salad on the fucking caves. Fuck's sake, go away. Oh dear. Sorry, you led me into that. I was trying to remember that earlier.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lots of groups coming up on a Telegram now. There is one called Lawyers of Light. There is one called Beat the Bailiff. And I wonder if you have seen them and what you have to say about it, because I think it looks good, everything. And I'm not in there commenting or anything. I'm just checking, and they're concentrating on putting out papers. They don't have so much discussions there.
Yeah, Beat the Bailiff. They've been around a little while.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other lot, Lawyers of Light or For Light or something.
I think it's the same. It's a woman having 4 of those chats. Lawyers of Lights and Beat the Bailiffs, and she has some other one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a
Bailiffs.
Yeah, for what I know, it's a lady.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Oh.
I've never had to be honest with you, I've never had to venture onto much of that stuff, only in the early days, stuff about bailiffs and stuff. But because within the group, what have I been part of it? 4 years? Is it? 4? It's got to be 4, maybe more. Is it 5 years? Anyway, yeah, there was so much knowledge in this group, especially with people like Albert, who's boots on, giving it to him, both barrels all the time, and he's been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and then went there again several times. He enjoyed it so much. So and there's a wealth of information, and we don't like at the beginning of the group. You see, David got rid of bailiffs remotely and otherwise on phone calls. So I've never had to really venture off to get info from elsewhere, because the info right here was good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what we need to be doing, looking at private, we say self-governing, good self-governance, sovereignty, not a slave, master of our own domain, so to speak, and managing things privately within our own communities, with our own resources, not going to. It's not necessary to go to the police. It's not necessarily necessary to go to external protection agencies. It's not necessary to speak legalese. It's not necessary to employ solicitors or barristers or briefs. It is not. I'm not speaking about every situation, but in certain self-representation or self-presentation, we look at repealing and appealing as opposed to repealing, as opposed to appealing, and knowledge is power. So without making a profit, but to try for us all to benefit from as beneficiaries, of the trusts that we set up, the lawful, private, express, and other trusts that we have. It's a sign of the times where we are realising that we We don't have friends. We don't have allegiances. We're not in the club as such. The legal areas is where the rest of them, the society, the law society, officers, judges, solicitors, barristers, attorneys, etc., reside. So I've heard lawyers of light with regards to COVID and virus and what they was doing and helping others, employees and employers with regards to rights, nurses and things, and beat the bailiffs. Reminds me of some years ago, yeah, Chrissy Morris, You and Your Cash is another movement, and yeah, people are using, because again the platform Telegram isn't ideal, but it's not perfect, but it is ideal for us and others to come on, and it's better than WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and all the other chat apps that are out there. So we have to learn to pool our resources and work as a society, as a community, self-governed, self-management, self-regulating, and we are in fact turning into journalists ourselves, researchers and regulators in a form. So it is encouraging to see. Yeah, it's a shame we can't get together though and pool more resources, and people, organisations and groups are wanting to stand alone and work through their own avenues. It's getting tiresome having to repeat, and to try to go out there and go onto other channels and share what we know to get something back from others. And it's hard work. I think it was Mr. Menzer that says, "Why can't we all work together?" When I posted and tagged Simon Spaniard and the MOB fiasco that's going off, and there's something Matrix, Ian Stamp or someone, was it, the controversies that are going off there.
Oh yeah,
The Great
yeah.
British Mortgage Swindle and the exposure that this El Spaniardo has done from the White Rabbit Trust on YouTube. And we were just saying, after all these years and the speculation that we had, it was well warranted. And the information that was passed to me by Michael O'Deara when I turned up to meet Serge at what was it? It was the Great British Mortgage Swindle seminar, and somebody called Tobe Hayden had said to Michael O'Deara, "What's that guy doing here? He's here to steal our he's here to steal our technology." And he asked Michael O'Deara to come up and ask me what I was doing there, and I said, "I'm here by invitation of Michael O'Byrnesia." I chatted to him on Viber, and he invited me to come down. I've met brother Serge, and we are here to listen to your proposals for indemnification for mortgage remedy, and that's as much as I can tell you. But I'm definitely not here as a thief, a magpie of magic, or a thief of tradition, or I'm here to listen and to absorb and to offer anything I can. And if this is what it seems like, then you two have done the undoable. And here we are, months, years later, still wondering. Well, we're not wondering, but I think we all know pretty much the shit show that it is.
Yeah, it's a shame. As I say, myself, Graham, etc., in the early days of our discoveries of all that we're involved with now, law-wise, the claims were sounded great, and the proofs, well, the talk of proofs, but slowly but surely, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen people, because everybody's quite polite in any comments on his posts and all that, and I've seen at least six, maybe more, at least six people will be really nice and polite and basically ask about proof of the claim with the mortgage stuff, and them just get blocked. Now, why would you do that? That's alarm bells ringing straight away. Your claim is this is what you've won. Now, at the time, this was before the release of the Great British Mortgage Swindle as such. It was when they were still doing all the, putting it all together. And this was where he was trying to draw, should we call it a class action, getting lots of people involved. Now, if you're about to go on some venture that could go horribly wrong and you totally lose your house, wouldn't you want some Do you think, do you think it's outrageous to ask for some proof of the claim that he's right? Because he claims he's done it all. Claims he's done it all. Even claims the judge said this, that, and the other, and at the end of it, he was well presented and all this bollocks after going through years of it. Where's the proof of claim? I just want you to show me that ruling that you got or whatever, and then I'll join your little crusade and risk my house. But nothing. And you get blocked. And then it doesn't make sense, does it? 1 minute, Great British mortgage swindle. Next minute, he's trying to prosecute members of the government. And that was such a load of nonsense and bollocks as well. Simple, basic mistakes. He was just ridiculous. And none of it's, and then all of a sudden he's a stand-up comedian. So what is going on?
It just goes to show that when people present information and claims, then the first thing you should do, the first port of call would be, can I see the evidence of that? Is there any evidence in the public domain? Have you got any documents, or have you redacted your process? Can we have a look at that? Obviously, if you see, when somebody asks the question, it's all very well and good about talking of the bills of exchange and moving from the public and discharging the charges to a private remedy, where we are then not discharging the charges, but we are setting off and transferring via endorsement and using private remedy. Then that's not something that can ever be brought into the public. If you have ever privately set off some debts and managed them effectively without using currency and credit and discharging the charges, then if you have effectively done that, then out of logic, by using a private remedy, it wouldn't be honourable to come out and publicly. You could speak about it behind closed doors and no one's going to be none the wiser, but you wouldn't be able to come on YouTube, Facebook and broadcast publicly, because that would be looked at and frowned upon, we'll say. So again, when people come out and make the claim, then you must always consider to ask them for the proof, simple as. And if there are no proof, then again, you're believing, and to believe is to not know. And that's why lie is in believe as well. The world's greatest story, the Bible, we some of us have believed that, and some of us continue to believe that. And it's nice to have a belief, it's nice to fill the void in your life there, and to have your own personal Jesus, Messiah, Savior. And if it works for you, it works for you. But to believe in something without a basis for that, and to not know and to not have any facts of the matter, then you're playing with fire somewhat. So in this day and age where people are desperate and there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of low self-esteem, there's a lot of laziness around, or not even laziness, just people haven't got the time, the inclination, the resources, and we can help you go so far by all means. But we always say, check out the facts of the matter, research what we say, do your own due diligence, and if someone comes along and makes claim, then ask them for proofs, or do your own research and look for it, as well as asking them for proof. And if they are honourable and they know what they're on about, they're not just scraping it from other channels or mirroring other people's work, then they will be able to competently and coherently and concisely give you the facts of the matter and help you and guide you. And a good teacher will always make you work. We'll just hand it you on a plate, but each to their own. I'm dyslexic, autistic, and I have issues. You all have issues. None of us are perfect. We have our own inhibitions and barriers that we have to learn to break down, develop and grow. And for you, there is a cost. That cost you have to pay is to pay attention. And in return for your payment of attention, you will be rewarded with knowledge, with the wisdom, and you will be able to control your fear, and you will progress in leaps and bounds. But that's as much as I can really say. So it's disappointing, it's upsetting, It's nice to think someone comes along with an idea of how to cash in the birth certificate, of how to get into the debtor creditor scenario. It's not something that I endorse because there's a lot more work needed than what is first meets the eye, and yeah, it's one of those areas again where we think common law court, John Smith. Who? I said John Smith, common law court. You know, the Magna Carta crew, the lawful rebellion crew. It's not a slanging game or anything. It's intellectually and
Magna
articulately
Carta.
have them to the table, and we could chat about all of this. But at first, you get common law. When you first got into common law, you know, when you heard these stories, you thought that sounds about right. I'll go for that. But then when you try to put it into practice, it falls on deaf ears. When you try to put Magna Carta into practice, it falls on deaf ears. When you go into a courtroom demanding to see a judge's oath, asking them where the bonds are, and telling them you're not the surety, when actually you are, it is implied that you are within the trust that is, you know, the co-public trust, the co-mingling of jurisdictions that we're all doing. It takes a lot of work for us to understand why, when we know we're right and we've done the limited amount of research, why we're not being able to discharge charges or have a discontinuation of proceedings or have the case thrown out, or to even effectively reach a satisfactory result, you know. So we've had to learn and bring to the table what we've brought to you over the years and the chats with regards to due process, practice directions, and the way that the legal system operates, a side parallel to the lawful system. And by learning their practice directions, rules, regulations, legislation, processes, duties, you know, honour, dishonour, fault, default, language, capital letters, styles, acts, statutes, admiralty, maritime, contract law, canon law, equity, trust, you know, and so we get to where we get to. Like, I'll give you an example and I'll yield. It was some years ago when I went to the council and said, this yellow and black sticker was affixed to my private property windscreen. I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm returning it to you. I do not contract. I do not consent. This is the issuing office. Take back your adhesion contract in the form of a PCN. And they said, no, the guy that's given you that, the civil enforcement officer, the parking attendant, who's now as CEO, he doesn't work here. He works in another district. And I said, well, he should be in his district then, because he's in this district where I am and this parish, and he's decided to affix this onto my private property, and I don't want it. So if he's here and he's issuing tickets here, he must have jurisdiction and authority as a civil enforcement officer. So here's your yellow and black sticky contract back. And I didn't know at the time to say that there is a computation of times in the bills of exchange section paragraph, this is the backing of which I am returning it within 3 days. I choose to decline and politely refuse the offer, and here it is. So again, it sounds good, it looks good, and it comes to enforcement and how to enforce it, knowing to stand upon it. We say, can you stand upon what you are using? And if you can't, like people wanting trusts and to buy a trust, yeah, you couldn't buy a trust because, well, not many can, because they're thousands of pounds done correctly, but you can express one and you can execute deeds yourself, and you can form your own trusts. You can learn about trusts. If you can't learn to express and formulate and command, you know, equity, trust law, and get into the propositions of it all, then we can teach you, and then we can help you obtain a trust or even express a trust in various forms, and then you will know what you've got and how to use it and how to enforce it, and how to prove you have a trust without expressing the trust, which would then collapse the trust. So to have a trust is one thing, but to then prove that there is a trust is another thing. So if you pay someone thousands of pounds, hundreds of pounds, and tens of hundreds sometimes, and you have a trust, and then you need to use it and enforce it and prove it's there, you haven't learnt about it. You're not going to be able to do so. It's a valid, bona fide technology, and it's all above board, and it conforms to English common law. But if you get tested to some extent, and you are unable to competently and coherently express the fact that there is a trust and prove that there is a trust, but without expressing and collapsing the trust, because they'll lead you down railroads, you know. So again, there are tricks and traps there, and we teach you, we educate you, and then things are a little bit better. But it takes work, it takes time, it takes discipline, it takes effort, and it takes a payment, and not fiat fiscal credits and promises. It takes the attention, and then obviously donations are greatly received should you wish to do so, from ourselves and others out there. So again, it's only so much we can do, isn't there? And then you have to do a little bit of the legwork yourself. But these scholars and saviors seem to present themselves, but in most instances it's just a comedy show, isn't it? Failed comedy show. I yield, boys.
Back to comedy again. It's crazy, really is.
When you quote Magna Carta, you would need to know which version of the Magna Carta you're quoting, because if you've looked at our documents with regards to Proclamation of Sovereignty, Vico Actus Part 2, version 1, I believe it's at, starts off with the truth about Magna Carta, and the papal bull annulling and the various editions of the Magna Carta, and then there is certain sections, which are 4 of them, which are still respected. You know, there was David Robinson some years ago talking about the Magna Carta being mentioned on the front pages of a newspaper, and somebody referencing that like a politician or somebody reputable. But again, you've got to know your jurisdiction, and I see the comment there from Stephen, and in some instances it may be applicable and it may be effective, but you have to be able to back it up, and you have to be able to and enforce that. There are more areas to do with equality and fairness and rights to trial than the Magna Carta. Your rights are enshrined at law, and you need to know the relevant, applicable, not Stephen, but all of you need to know when you quote something, is there anything else out there that may be more steadfast, maybe more respected and approached, and that's orthodox and accepted, rather than coming across as a free man on the land or a sovereign citizen, etc. And we have to then obviously go into and deviate from the subject matter. Whereas if you get the orthodox, accepted, recognised quotation, then that would get you to the same place with less hassle. So I'm not saying you shouldn't mention what you believe you need to mention, but then when you need to rely upon it and enforce it, you need to have reserves. So if it gets thrown out, or it's not recognised, it's not accepted, it's in the wrong jurisdiction, then you would mention other areas of law and treaties of laws, such people like Blackstone, publications as Blackstone, Halsbury's, and so forth and so on, human rights, and then the civil procedure rules, processes, English common law, case in point, precedents that have passed, and equality, as well then as looking at the propositions of equity. And some of our favourites are things like, where the rules of common law and those of equity collide, equity will prevail. Those that slumber on their rights, are seen to have none. Your silence is deemed as consent. In no world ever is silence deemed as consent, because you could blame a lot of things that happen in life as consent. So there's a charge here of somebody saying that I've sexually assaulted them. Okay, well, I asked them, but they never replied. So I call it surprise sex. Okay, so there you go. I tried to ask them, but they was asleep, but I carried on anyway because I was drunk. So they didn't reply, so they had their consent.
I had a go.
You know what I mean? Go on, sorry, Kevin. Bad example.
I had a bit of a go while they were asleep.
Silence is nowhere in any type of circumstance is silence considered as consent. The way that the legal law society work their ways around it is tacit acquiescence, fault and default, pre-action protocols, and things like this is how they. Because if you don't answer,
Would that be making sure she was awake in this case? Pre-action protocol.
yeah.
I actually think Magna Carta is quite important, because I'm reading a paper here and I've been sharing the link with you here in this chat here on Zoom. And it's called Magna Carta of Judges. And it was in March 2011. They have been doing this. They have been modified in paragraph 22 of the Magna Carta. And it says here that these rules should be the same for all Europe. These principles shall apply mutatis mutandis to judges of all European and international courts.
Well, that's all very well and good, but we have Lex Mercatoria. We have the law merchant running around with Admiralty and Maritime, and implied relationships that we need to, and trust and equity and common law and legal precedents and statutory legislation. So it's all well and good in the correct jurisdiction, isn't it? But we don't seem to grasp the fact that there are effectively constitutions for all the layers of courts there, for a district, a county, a magistrate, a high court, an international Supreme Court, then the international courts and so forth. So they have their own jurisdictions. They have their own specific language. So you can't go and start and argue. We'd say I'd link Magna Carta with constitution and constitutional areas. So you can't go into law merchant areas and start using constitution for your defence, because you need to meet them at the correct at-law level and then move them from that. You intelligently, honourably, and as difficult as that may sound, you've got to be able to meet them at that level and then move from that level to the correct level and manage that in ways of tactileness. So you are right, and it is true, but good luck. Even with equity and trust, you would have to stand and prove it. You've got to argue till you're blue in the face, like what is happening now with the claims and the agencies associated with the Department for Work and Pensions. You are right, and you are not a criminal. You've done everything right, but you've been sanctioned. You're a less well-off position, mentally stressed, financially stressed. Physically, a lot of different contributing factors going on here, and then you have to fight and wait weeks and months and get on the ship of hardness, the hardship, and then obviously you are, as Greg's just put in the chat above there, you're considered guilty until you prove yourself innocent. It's such as it is, isn't it? So, what do you think?
It is quite interesting here because they have an ethics and responsibility for those judges here, and it says that judges shall be criminally liable in ordinary law for offenses committed outside their judicial office. Criminal liability shall not be imposed on judges for unintentional failings in the exercise of their functions. The remedy for
Come on, Anders.
Appropriate system of appeals. Any remedy for other failings in the administration of justice lies only against the state. It is not appropriate for a judge to be exposed in respect of the purported exercise of judicial functions to any person liability, even by way of reimbursement of the state, except in a case of willful default. And so I see here that they actually have some responsibility when they have to follow this Magna Carta of judges.
Well, yeah, judges have got. If you appoint the court and you've done your paperwork correctly, then they can be appointed in their fiduciary capacity, and the fiduciary has got the interests of the beneficiary to look after. But if you haven't corrected the misconstrued relationships, you're never going to get to that position in the first place. But you've mentioned the administration of justice. That's a key point to hold on to, because we're not always in these business venues, and we're not always in these business venues and they're not giving out the to give out the administration of justice. They are there. You would be quite prevalent, or it would be quite pertinent to ask, what jurisdiction does the court lie in at this moment, and find out what jurisdiction the court is in. So I'm not talking civil or criminal. They may answer civil, which is great. It's seldom going to be criminal. And then you might want to ask them what jurisdiction of the law. What law, when we speak of law, what law are you purporting to administer here today? English common law, admiralty, maritime, law merchant. There's lots of areas. When we say, you mentioned something, I forgot what you said now, about something law, but it didn't specify what law. Well, and you just read that paragraph out there. But the administration of justice is a key fact, and you can always inquire with the court. It's not always necessary to be at the court. Kevin and I were talking the other day about the tribunal, and there was no representation for the agency there, and the judge proceeded anyway, in their absence. But I thought, if you're in a court scenario and you don't turn up, a plea will be entered into your absence, and they will continue anyway. But if there's two parties involved in a claim and one of the parties doesn't turn up, then you should win by default, because they haven't turned up and they haven't represented anything. So the DWP or the DWP's agencies really should have had representatives there, but there wasn't any representatives. And the lady that's won the tribunal, with the DWP and the agency there, turned up and showed face, has the rights to face the audience, the rights to face their accuser, and the accuser didn't turn up, but the judge proceeded anyway. So if it works for them and it can go that way, then that's why we've said that it isn't always necessary, and we're not giving legal advice, as you know, but it isn't always necessary for somebody to turn up at a court. You can present your paperwork, and go back to the beginning of the video where we quoted the ways of ensuring that your paperwork is filed, and you can prove that it's filed in accordance with the civil practice directions, and then therefore you can let your paperwork serve as an officer in the court for civil matters. Obviously you'll get remanded and brought up for criminal issues. There's no getting out of that, but for civil issues it's not necessarily to be present, is it?
Yeah, and I wonder, because I think most of the European countries would have common law. Sweden has civil law, for example, but here it's said that the judges, they should judge after Magna Carta in all these European countries and national things. And it's really interesting here, because they say the main conclusions of the opinions that it already adopted, each of those 12 opinions, brought to the attention of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe. Then I wonder, who is this Council of Europe that all these judges have to listen to, It's really like, what is this? Ministers of the Council of Europe. I'm not sure it is within the European Union even, I mean, I think it's more of a private organization. Can you find any?
Well, the name rings a bell. Council of Europe.
I think when they're mentioning Magna Carta, they are not referencing the Magna Carta of England as such. They would be a group, a meeting, ministers, deputies, certain things like that, framework for the organisation The Magna Carta of European judges is something I've never ever heard of before, but
Yeah,
they would be.
then I'm going to read here first because it says here, due to an incoherence between the English and the French versions highlighted by several CCGE members, and for better coherence with opinion number 3, paragraph 57. It is for England and France, this paper here. It's
Did you
important.
say European though? Because we are physically as a landmass in Europe, but we have left the European Union, haven't we? So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, I have, but this one here is from 2010. And I send you the link here in the chat on Zoom. So you can just go to the
yeah.
chat and click the link, then you see the same paper. And it's just a short paper. So I'm just really curious about
So
it.
what I'm thinking is there's a uniformed layer of conduct in Europe for judges, the fundamental
Well,
principles that summarise and codify the main conclusions, and opinions of how they should proceed. So basically, European
well,
case law to do with French, Czech, German, Lithuanian, Italian, Polish, Serbian, Hungarian, Romanian, these kind of countries where we've looked at Europe. Obviously, America's enough. England's enough. Going to YouTube and learning from Americans about English law and then it being wrong because England and America are two different jurisdictions and we had to separate that. So then the separation of American codified constitution to English non-codified constitution to equity and trust and the other areas of law there was enough. But then we looked at Europe and thought, well, I wonder how Europe runs. So now, Anders, I believe you have answered that. As of 2010, there is some kind of embodiment in that, and they've called it the Magna Carta of European, whatever, the Council of Europe. Yeah,
well, don't forget, Magna Carta only means Great Charter. It's
yeah.
not it's not exclusive to the Magna Carta we know in England. It's just a title. So Magna Carta of anything, Magna Carta of underpants. Do you know what I mean? It's just no. Do you know what I mean? It's just saying this is the great document of this subject. That's all it's saying, really. It doesn't mean it's Magna Cartas are linked. How's that? It's just a title.
I'm going to put into the chat. Yeah, thank you for that, Kevin. That's key and integral for us too. That explains it perfectly. I'm going to put a chat in, link into the chat where on my 42nd birthday or thereabouts, we came and had a chat with Tube, and it was incorporating common law, lockdown, them notices that we put outside shops regarding the common law and trying to stay open in lockdown and referencing Magna Carta. We did a great session with that, and I went through the principles, and we went through the principles and bits of Magna Carta that are relevant there. But if you're trying to reference due process and rights and entitlements, there are better, more orthodox, easier avenues to go down that wouldn't fall on deaf ears with regards to England anyway. That's where we are and what we're looking at, English common law with the practice directions, the civil procedure rules, and then we look at European after that, and we look at human rights, and we look at case law, international case law, and certain things like this. So your silence is deemed as guilt, but you have a right to silence. They shouldn't imply guilt from your silence. If we look at certain things with the law, the law of England, the common law of England and Wales, the claimant is duly obligated to provide the proof of claim and the material facts of the matter. So we don't seldom. I've started off with lawful rebellion, common law, and Magna Carta, but I've stemmed away from it, and we've brought you the topics and subjects that we've done, to get rid of a bailiff, a debt collector, an officer, and certain things, agencies like this. I didn't reference Magna Carta, I've referenced common law, we've referenced procedure, due process, practice directions, civil procedure rules, and things that are in play within the law merchant and the commercial laws, the public commercial laws that they're governed by. Then we look at the laws of England and Wales, and we've said such things as you can't use rules and policy of the United Kingdom to break the laws of England and Wales. If you choose to proceed beyond your own private, commercial, public, private, you separate this and your liabilities thereof. So, Constable, be very careful how you choose to proceed. But for Europe, it's a total different ball game, and I can't comment on that as you're bringing to the table now, Anders. So I'm glad you are, and I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, we have. Good luck, mate. But everything works roughly the same. But I don't know how you've probably got a billion pages of code and acts in the middle of Europe.
Yes, and the Swedish system, it's quite special because they have been implementing the Swedish law system in the whole of Balticum, Lettland, Litauen, and Estonia, and in Ukraine too, And there is lots of other countries also that is using this system that from the beginning is coming from Eastern Germany. What Sweden was taking over in I don't remember if it was in the 70s, they was changing the whole law system here in Sweden. And then they was going over to this Eastern German. It's basically a copy of Eastern German's juridical declaration. So that's quite interesting. And that's the family Wallenberg that is having the control of this, because they are in the control of the university, the law universities and everything. And they also have been, when we are on it anyway, then you had the guy for the World Health Federation. What is his name? The guy who is saying that we should all wear masks and take protections. He was trained here in Sweden by the Wallenbergs. So we have to start to look at that too, because if we want to come down to the seed of it, then we have to see what system is the growing system here. And I think it is that system that Wallenberg is spreading now. They was making it like a social democratic, but it was communistic from the beginning. So they were sneaking it in. Sorry for ranting here.
Sorry, I'm muted. I've just noticed Kevin's dropped off for some reason, but yeah, it's good information.
I'm here.
Are you there? Sorry, I've got the.
I am here. I'm just outside.
No, it's on YouTube. There's only two screens, me and Anders, and then I've gone to the platform, and we're all three here. No, thank you. That's well appreciated. That's an area of which I am very weak in, European law and the charters and councils of. So ultimately, Vaticano, wherever there is a central bank, national identity documents, and certainly it's all quite uniform, but it's dressed up in different outfits to appear that it's they are sometimes, they are quite often slightly different institutions, processes, words, languages, courts, and yeah, that's on the offset, from the outset, is looking independent and different, but it's not always It's sometimes when we get into it, we can see commonalities, and there is a hierarchy within the world with regards to the papal crown, and then the central banks and the governments and the princes, queens, kings, the monarchies as such, and then the presidents and prime ministers. It's just how, yeah, we have to separate that specific to where you are, or if you was from a country that had a law system different to where you are now. Lots of people are migrating, aren't they, and becoming subject to and claiming asylum, or economic migrants, and they are now interfacing with foreign systems, foreign law systems to them, unfamiliar law systems and languages, so they don't actually know, what is correct and what isn't. Innocence and silence are two key things to take from that, because Crown copyright and with regards to the court systems themselves, then there is commonalities between the Commonwealth countries, the foreign territories that England own, even down to Kevin and I coming across Halsbury's quotes in India. That may well be from the residue of the British India and so forth, and the occupation that we had in the 19th century then. But for them to, their civil systems, Hong Kong, Chris Patton, Asia as well, civil systems and judicial systems, thousands of miles totally on the other side of the planet, commonalities there. So we've got Eastern influence from the London law system and the banking system as well. So we're known, this little landmass, for what it is, how tiny it is compared to the other landmasses, has ensconced itself financially and with regards to civil practices and languages, thousands and hundreds of thousands of miles away, tens of thousands of miles away, should I say. And it's quite surprising the similarities that we see, but they have their own jurisdictions, their own jurisprudence, their own specific language, constitution to that, but they are influenced heavily from. And those of us that have done the research going back to the Magi, the magic. I remember talking with Josh X about this, and the Magi. They were the three wise men that followed the star to little baby Jeebus and so forth. So we look at the Magi Straits, the magic, and the Majesty. So they're still there. If you want, you could go back BC into antiquities before Common Era and see the tedious links stemming back and the evolution of that going forward. So the New World Order is prevalent in all our lives in the form of the legal system. The modern day legal system is a form of order, and it's ordered around the world. It's an order that we have around the world, civil, commercial, law, merchant, and so forth. That would be an order, and it's New World, like the New World Testament. When I speak of the New World Order, don't just think of the Bavarian gang and Adam, whatever, Weishaupt or that man that's created from Bavaria, the Illuminatus. But again, Italians, Latin, Vatican. It's the hand, the unseen, hidden hand.
Wasn't, just going back to the India reference, wasn't that when we found the equity stuff, or mentioned in the Indian stuff?
We was looking in the realms of equity, and we were searching in lockdown time for something, and it was oh wow, yeah, I can't even think now, but I'm glad you remember it as well. It was like, oh, look at this, Halsbury's Law reference for the courts of India. And while we're on India, while we've touched on the topic of India, those on the landmass that was present for the burial of QE2 that was televised, did you notice the regalia, the symbology, The merger of church and military, that's like just an oxymoronic statement in itself. You know, you should never have the church merged with killing forces. Thou shalt not kill, but we're friends with the ones with the guns and the cannons and the tanks and the air force and the navy, those that go and kill in the name of God, of course. So that was interesting. The symbology, the helmet, the Roman helmet, the gold encrusted Roman helmet that was on top of the coffin, the symbology, from what I saw, was prevalent and real. You know, what we've done with discoveries and looked at opening up dark rabbit holes is interesting. That's one aside. And then have we forgotten the Commonwealth and not you, but the consciousness of England and the souls that occupy it are naturally, some of them, you know, wanting to pay their respects. I have proclaimed on this channel that I swear as long as I live I shall never serve the Queen again, knowingly, willingly, and I have my reasons for that, because I don't want to be associated with, as many of you don't, with this institution and this clandestine bloodline and its principles and morals. I feel quite ashamed. I did feel ashamed to be associated with similar vein as paying tax, and where your tax money goes to, and companies that invest into funds that buy weapons and weapons and involved in such things as cluster bombs and that, and it's just immoral, and we cannot be associated with that knowingly and willingly. So we look at the Commonwealth and its bloody hands from the last few hundred years, chopping the hands off British India, how we occupied that land and left it worse off than when we went there. The Opium Wars, Asia, the Captain Cook, Captain Columbus, and we've got Australia and America, and the Aborigines and the indigenous Americans. And I don't feel that this establishment, as sad as a death is, we didn't hear much of Elizabeth in lockdown and COVID, and the opposition was even silent in the form of Keir Starmer with regards to Boris and what he was doing, and Johnson, Gove, Cummings and Hancock were left to furnish the pockets of and hold the country, to bring the country to a stop, and not to be held accountable for most of it. So again, I believe the monarchy, QE2, who's handed over the management of the courts and the government to such bodies as, could have done more and should have done more if she was the true ruler, which she isn't. It's the Crown, and she's the monarch of the UK, not England and Wales. So I don't feel that and you shouldn't feel bad if I got told that I've got quite a cold, callous outlook on the life with regards to my comments at work about the funeral, upcoming funeral, and the actual funeral, and my comments fell on some deaf ears. There were some royalists about, and of which I was polite, courteous, but I put my points across, as we've got a freedom of speech, but I'm at work, so I had to be careful not to breach any of the work policies. And then when I reminded people of certain things, and even going to an illegal war with Tony Blair and bombing the freedom out of Iraq and so forth and so on, and Saddam Hussein not having weapons of mass destruction, we were lied to again. The Kuwaiti oil and the what happened with all of that debacle, the Chilcot report, certain just things that we don't forget. People do forget, and they want to pay respects and get involved in it all. But once I reminded them of the callousness, the underhandedness, the cruelness, and the blatant murder that's gone off, not to mention the legal murders that are going off unlawfully on this landmass, with regards to the legal personality that we've all found out about, the straw man, the deception, the legalese, the implied relationships that we're considered to be in through these misconstrued contracts. They've labelled me the preacher at work because of this now, though. I am now nicknamed in the warehouse Preacher. I yield.
Oh dear, the preacher. ask if you could have a pulpit at work, so you can give sermons at tea break. It's your religious right, Dave.
Yep. Spiritual. They said that. They used to call me Religious Dave. I'm like, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Religious Dave.
Soon pulled them up on that. I says, I say that Holy Bible has got more holes in it than my colander at home. There's a reason why it's called the Holy Bible. It's full of holes.
Yeah.
I'm not religious at all. I'm spiritual, if anything, and I'm a hermeticist, if anything, and more leaning upon Tibetan Buddhisms and Zen-like way philosophy of life. But I'm scanning the room. I'm seeing if there's any questions and
Yeah, I can't. I'm outside, and my tablet that's logged onto the chat room is not outside.
They're talking about meters, changing utility meters, and how's that going? We could do a special chat on that. I think we'll do a video on that with regards to the safety acts that are involved. Homeowners would be ideal for this. If you're a tenant, possibly not ideal for you to look into this. But yes, standing charges, the national grid, off-gem, safety. Albert, I see your comments there, and Kevin, I've told anybody that wants to find out information with regards to, we have a workshop for equity and trust orientation lessons. Obviously, you're not going to master this subject in a night or in a short time, but we can give you introductions into equity and trust and case law, referencing Professor Alistair Hudson and other professors, and orthodox publications with regards to the equity and trust side. Some videos from Richard from back in the day, the 3 videos that are 2 hours long each, are aside to that, as well as the content from Professor Alistair Hudson and his publications there. So we would look at presenting that to you, and then the playlist on this channel, the 3 certainties. That was the case law of night versus night, where the 3 certainties was embossed and enshrined at law with regards to it's not the only principle and propositions of equity that are contrasted to whether or not, because Kevin came up with a beauty where we was on about in a private chat, certainty of intent, certainty of objects, and certainty of intention, and talking about trusts. And I can't remember what it was that Kevin said and how we led up to this, but he came up with a paradox for me, and it was about the judge. It might have been Paul versus Constance, where the judge in the case at the time decided that it was the actions of the parties that then the judge looked at the substance over the form and said, in Paul versus Constance 1977, if I'm not misquoting, do check it out, that because of what he saw, the principles of equity would deem that a trust was formed. But then Kevin said, well, that strikes out the certainty of intention, doesn't it, David? And I said, well, that's why equity is not the law. It looks to it's like the spirit and the soul of the law, to quote, it might be Blackstone's there, and you'll find that in previous posts and videos and chats, you may well remember. So it's not as black and white as what it seems, and it doesn't. It's kind of crazy in a way, because you say, okay, David, you've said night versus night, set the case precedent for how trusts are valid and form express private trusts in particular, and you must fulfil the 3 certainties and X, Y, and Z, and the propositions of equity will look after the trust and make sure that it is deemed as a valid trust. Okay, then. So in Paul versus Constance, the word trust wasn't used. The man didn't intend to set a trust up in those explicit terms, but his actions said that he did set up a trust. So you see how it's one of them where you need to give this topic and subject a little bit of a lateral think as well, because it's not paradoxical in a sense, but you have to befriend equity and research equity in order to be able to effectively administer trusts and enforce them and understand them and use them. Does that make sense?
It, it does appear in places when you look at everything together that it contradicts. It appears to contradict itself in parts, and that's where me and Dave and Graham a lot. But that's the sort of best chats when you sort of go off on a random one
Yeah.
and play Advocatus Diaboli, which I quite enjoy. Graham and I do a lot of that. Absolutely tear everything apart to the nth degree, every angle. It's a good way to be, but yeah, some of it when you write it down, it says, well, he decided that was that. And you think, well, hang on, because the rules say this. So it's as broad as it's long. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
but
it.
it takes you to know the subject matter and to have done your
Yeah.
research and to know where you're coming from there. I believe it was Bouvier, not Blackstone. Another great set of publications by the man known as John. I believe it 1882, much like the Bills of Exchange, the soul and the spirit of the law, equity, where the law is nothing without equity and equity is everything even without law. So he was quoted to say, those that perceive what is just and what is unjust only through the eyes of the law, they will never see it as well as those who behold it with the eyes of equity. The law may be looked upon in some manner as an assistance for those who have a weak perception of right and wrong. In the same way that I'm wearing glasses and they're useful for me who are short or long sighted, or those whose visual organs are deficient. So equity, in its true and genuine meaning, is the soul and the spirit of the law. So therefore, where the trust law is not satisfied, because in Knight versus Knight the free certainties weren't satisfied in the Paul versus Constance case, the judge then looked upon, because common law would say, okay, and the common law of England and Wales with regards to trust law, when I say law, common law, would say, no, the three certainties weren't met. If we stick to the black and white of the matter, then there wasn't a trust form, because he didn't intend and express that, the certainty of intention was not filled. The objects was fulfilled. Yeah, the certainty of subject matter was fulfilled, but intention was not. But the intention by their actions, which is why equity. So this is a great thing to cross-examine there, because then what equity does is to give the soul and the spirit. Well, actually, he may not have known. It's quoted actually where the judges said they are simple people, and they are and something else there. So it's quite upsetting to hear when you look at the Paul versus Constance dialogue, from what the judge deemed. If you go and search for it, you'll see what I'm saying. He then said these aren't educated. He didn't say unintelligible, but he said they are simple people that do not understand. So they then looked upon this case and said, actually, through the eyes of equity, then there is actually a trust here. So I hope that the rights and the spirit of equity are identified as and embody the very energy of righteousness, and that's why equity will supersede common law, because trust law is under the common law of England and Wales, and under the common law of England and Wales, then there would have been frowning upon that case and situation and claim, but in equity, the judge would make a ruling or decision based on the principalities of what the fair and just decision would be. And you don't get always a fair and just decision at the level of common law. So, we reference that in the Bible with John and the stoning and certain things there as well. So, we'll leave it there. I'm going to go to the chat room and have a look, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, you have a look round. I'm still outside.
All right, bro. Put it on speaker. There we go. So we can change. Liz Trust. While I'm looking at the chat room, what are your feelings on this character? At least with Boris, he, even though you could tell he was lying, he pretended like he gave a shit, even though we know he didn't, and he was being a little bit callous and bumbling along. But at least the man tried, and at least he put on a show. Liz, she's about as popular as that lad at secondary school on his first day that shat his pants and called the teacher mum. In fact, he has got more street cred and respect from me than Liz Trust at this present time. Hey, I
The
yield.
trouble is, she's WEF. We all know they're WEF. So it's just one fucking puppet after another. They all sound good. None of it will get delivered. You fucking wait and see. They're all full of shit. They're only culling. But that's what I've got to say on the matter. Kill everyone. Disgusting, mate. Absolute retards, these people.
Deregulations of banks. We had the capping of the bankers' wages and so forth, even though they found a loophole and a way around that. They are looking at deregulating. We've not been in office more than a month, and straight away they're looking after Londinium banking and the establishment there of the private banking cartels on the wharf.
David, I was hearing that in November or December, you're going to have some new coins coming out, and it's gold coins and silver coins, and it says 25 years, or is it 15 years of magic, and it refers to the Harry Potter story. Haven't you seen those things?
No, in between grafting, looking after my queen, who's recently been diagnosed with the skin cancer issue, and building the attic, the man cave. I haven't had much time over the last 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. I'm quite fatigued and run down and tired, not because of that, but I'm getting old, middle-aged, and I don't know what's happening, but I've not been turning on to news channels or the TV in between doing those jobs, sleeping, eating. So
Depressed enough.
Hey?
I don't even
I'm
think.
Depressed enough.
Go on, Anders.
I said I don't even think this has been out on the news, you know. So it was a PDF file I was reading it, and I have it somewhere here, but I'm gonna see if I find it.
Yeah, maybe they are making commemorative coins. We've got a fiat currency credit system, and in bankruptcy they would never put into circulation intrinsic value, things of intrinsic value.
We've already got Mickey Mouse money.
50 years of Harry Potter, though. Did you say 50 years of Harry Potter?
Oh, 15.
15. Ah. Hocus Pocus. Speaking of magi and magic and magistrates and majesty, the magi are still key. That's why we focus on, I don't know there, but maybe commemorative, bullion based, for that reason. But who gives a shit about 15 years of Harry Potter?
No, but it was quite a big coin collection. It says here, Harry Potter coins 2022, Royal Mint coin collection.
There we go.
Oh no, that's nonsense.
And it says Harry Potter 25 years of magic, and it comes from UK coins. So I don't know.
That's not the treasury. It's not the mint. The Royal Mints are currently going, they just sell cheap tap, mate.
Yeah, this was not cheap, I tell you.
No, but when you try and sell them on, you'll find out that nobody wants them.
No, it's good that I can ask you, you know, because it is
Yes.
something I want to know, you know. So there is
There's
one coin here. It's a 50 pence coin for 150 pounds. So
now.
it's
I'll sell you a 50 pence coin for £100. I've just saved you 50 quid.
Gangster. Now, where's your clean hands? I'm wearing
I
gloves.
got some Winnie the Pooh. I got some Winnie the Pooh 50 pences here actually.
uh,
They're worth a couple of bob.
Gary, apparently it's not patriotic to criticise the royal family. No, but it's just right and proper to actually point out the bits of history that mankind, our family outside, you know, our extended family at common law levels and under the sacred contract. It's my duty to remind them about their, you know, unbridled patriotism regarding, you know, what have they ever done for you? I know this is a subject of which you don't want to hear much of, but thank you for that, Gary. I appreciate that, and I just wanted to say
Well,
thank you. Yeah.
you know, listen, I understand it was a good tourist attraction, but you hear these people and some of the strange people, oh, you say anything again? She was so wonderful. Okay, what did she do? And not just that, how did you directly benefit from it? Please explain to me, apart from traveling the world in the lap of luxury, even getting her ass wiped probably, what did she do that benefited any of us in the whole Commonwealth? Nothing. You can't, nobody can answer that question. Oh, she was a figurehead. For what? For what? Benefit scrounger. Unbelievable. You can criticize anything. Don't worry about snowflakes. Even better if you upset a few people when you do it.
I know, yeah, it's doing it politically in line with and accordance and giving them, yeah, here's our Dave with a quick reminder of, and then they've got nothing to say then, yeah, nothing to say. But each to their own.
Sounded like blind date then. With a quick reminder of three contestants.
With regards to the question for gas and utility meters, the reason I don't want to say anything publicly on Tube is we have some information from the man that turned up at the last minute at Rick Mansworth's seminar that we had regarding his management of utility companies and what he did and where he went, and what he told us. 60% we already knew, but the other 40% and how he went about it was very, very interesting. And how he went about it, what he did, and then he ended up getting the utility company either struck off or a fine because they did something very, very naughty and they claimed things that they shouldn't have claimed. And it turned out when the independent governing authority that he went to with his management of this investigated, what he told us was you remember, Kevin, don't you, brother Singh turning up and Gurjit
Indeed.
and telling us,
Yes.
yeah, how he managed that. And I was like, okay. And we made notes and we have those references. I did ask him to send me something into the email to redacted and to share privately with you all. Plus what we've seen from back in the day with Mark Webster, Paul Webster and Mark Ceylon. Oh, I just made a love child between Ceylon and Webster there. Sorry, but those guys and Beat the Bailiffs and You and Your Cash and things like this. So we would look at a special presentation and topic on that because we've been on 2 hours and now is not the time for us to dip into that. But there are perils and pitfalls there. There would be preferred situations, ideal situations for you to be in. A homeowner, for instance, or outright homeowner, or even with a mortgage or with it paid off. and then moving down through a process to conform to safety, number one, and then law, number two. And then after that, it's game over, to be fair. So, interesting. Yeah, we're looking at solar panels at the minute. I look at it like this: if you're going to pay £120 on average a month for electric, which is a joke when you think of Tesla, magnets, copper, 0 point energy, how much lightning there is around the world. People say, Dave, that Tesla stuff's bullshit. Okay then, how many thunderstorms are there around the world each day, each week, each year? Now add up all the volts that are discharged by that empty space where there is nothing apparently, and I'm just a tinfoil hat wearing, tree hugger. It makes sense. There's proof of it. There is energy for us to harness, wind, solar, and obviously the atomic, the subatomic, within the realms of Nikola Tesla type technologies, and beyond. So, if you're going to pay £120 for nuclear energy supplied by the big six, then why wouldn't you think about investing in solar panels and inverters and batteries and selling it to the grid? Apparently solar panels these days come with a 20 to 30 year guarantee. They lose 0.1% of their productivity each year, and if you go with a loan, or if you're fortunate enough to have some credit stashed away, you could look at the options for these newer, more efficient panels with more efficient batteries, and look at supplying your own energy and selling it back and putting it on the grid. You don't even need to have a battery these days. You can have a virtual battery where you, if you are fortunate enough to get the sunshine, like this summer was a particularly good one. So I dare say there'll be people there that have charged up and sold back to the grid, and they won't have a bill all year. So it may seem an outlay, on average £10,000 for about 15 solar panels, an inverter, a battery, an independent evaluation. But on the flip side, if you've paid that out in full, then you're only going to get the return coming back to you, and you'll soon recoup that initial outlay. And if you take a loan, that loan's only just like paying your electricity bill. So as your monthly payments come back, so I've been looking at that with Anne-Marie, to be fair. Hello, darlings.
Hi.
Hello, ladies. Kevin's muted. Anders is silent.
Yes,
I'm here.
some cats here. I'm not sure if it's my cats or if it's Kevin's, or if you got cats.
I've got cats. I haven't got any around me at the moment, though.
I don't
Place
know.
is full of cats and dogs.
We need to be able to prove when we look at these utility bills, when we look at debtor creditor, when we look at discharging charges, quarterly statements, and so forth. We've got so much evidence: the bills of exchange, the bankruptcies, the acts, the history of this landmass, government and banking, intrinsic value, non-intrinsic value, surety, securitization, security instruments. We have to be able to prove unequivocally that what we are saying is matter of fact. So that's where the work comes in with regards to double dipping, A for V, debtor creditor. It's packaged up as a great item, a commodity that you must go ahead and look at. And you have got certain truths within it, but it is a little bit more complicated with regards to management. Many of you out there have tried to set off charges using private remedy, issuing promissory notes, accepting for value and returning for value, endorsement, national insurance number. We're on the right lines, and we are right with what we perceive to be true, and it's in the annals of history, it's in legislation, it's in banking constitution. It's just how we present that, and how we then get to use private remedy and correct the misconstrued relationships of these implied relationships we find ourselves in. So that's the paperwork side of things, which brings me on to, I have a 5-page document that I've written that I'm going to present to describes the supporters of this channel. It'll be about an hour video maximum with regards to how I see, without circumventing the trust law of England and Wales and the propositions of equity, how we would look at claiming those securities using the securitization. This security is the surety, and presenting that and managing that with the various offices, including the Treasury, for appointment of our estate's financial intermediary. So I need to do that privately, and I need to run it through, and then we need to look at the paperwork and the offices and the questions to ask them, to require of them. So we have found remedy to the CQV in many respects, with how to remain private, how to discharge charges, how to afford them to our person, to understand what a person is, to look at the language, to look at the positions, the civil issues that are happening, and how we play that. But ultimately, we would need to stop mixing jurisdictions and trying to, be in the private but exist in the public. An example would be people that are in council houses claiming benefits, then want to try to, as we've said for many years now, step out of the system. Well, unfortunately, you're in a very hard situation where you're claiming entitlement in the form of benefits from the state and in state parish housing, but yet you want to fight the hand or bite the hand that feeds you. It's only going to end up in a bad situation for you, with loss of entitlement and loss of habitat. So there are certain ones of us that are fortunate enough to not be in a situation like that, and would be able to do the groundwork to then lead the rest out. So when we say, and I've said, and Kevin warned me saying, you are perhaps going to damage our integrity by saying publicly that we have the remedy for the CQV surety bondage slavery issue. But we really have in many ways, and I explained that with Kevin on the chat, saying we know how to present privately and how to afford civil charges and claims to our person. That, in my eyes, is 90% of the remedy. The rest of the remedy is to have to obtain alternative provisions, so we can get our equitable relief, and that's the last 10%. We're not in this for money. We're in this for reasons of self-preservation, self-governance, and for our assets, our young stars, our young bloods, aka children. So we're trying to do stuff now for those of our bloodline in the future, so they don't have to go through the debacle and fiasco that we've gone through. If there is, and there is, a bank account which we've attached to PayPal and charged to, that we found containing the national insurance numbers and the year that we turned 16, I can personally vouch and testify, and others can, that we found these bank accounts, and we charged them once we attached them to PayPal via me shopping on eBay. But those accounts were quickly removed, and the charges were either reversed or the accounts were removed, and we heard no more about it. So that is a matter of fact. There are accounts out there with the Royal Bank of Scotland on church streets that are there to, I believe, receive those accounts that we found that were took off us. The Treasury Direct issue that we found some years ago through Heather and Tucci Giraffe and the Intellectual Freedom Movement from America, brought us this, and we've since built upon that. I believe those bank accounts are there to receive the equitable interest with the alternative provisions we ask for, that would include the capital gains made by the corporation known as the United Kingdom and the corporation of the United Kingdom government, and then the proceeds coming back from the Securities Exchange Commission. And so when I say we have the latter part, I'm going to present to my channel's members and supporters, in principle, over an hour via 5 pages and 2,000 and some words, what it is we need to do. So most of the remedy has been sought after, as you've seen, and we can manage to exist, but we're still commingling jurisdictions, and we're looking for a remedy that would suit everybody, and for you to exist wholly in the private, to have the alternative provisions, to get your equitable relief, and to get the capital gains made by the governments and corporations known as the governments that are masquerading as a country, but they're just a corporation that have made that through the mineral and resource, the gas and electric charges and prices and hikes we're seeing now. We shouldn't have to pay any of that via the bankruptcy, for number one, and various technicalities we've found through the government system, the financial system, the banking system. But other than that, those resources are ours, and that is our right. So if there is no backing to the private banking cartel's fiat, paper-based, promissory note, debt-based currency system we call legal tender, then where is the surety, and the backing for that debt that the government owe that private banking cartel? It is via the people. It is via the ones that are implied as people, the legal fictions, the legal personalities running around, and the credits that they pay back to the system. So there's a little bit of untangling to do, but we can see where we want to be, and we can see when people say, yeah, but David, where does this equitable relief come from? If it's all based on paper, then what is it that you're getting? If there is no money, how can you get equitable relief from something which doesn't exist? I'm like, that's a very good question. Well, we would get an account, and we would get credits into that account, so therefore we could have an existence without having to be a slave, number one. Number two, with that allowance, you would have a guaranteed income, a universal basic income, which is, from what I've said to you, the capital gains, the SEC, the gas, the oil, the mineral, the capital gains made from that. Then there is the underside of the coin, where perhaps the name is being used, the securitization and so forth, and the financial intricacies with that International Securities Exchange Commission register. Then we have the gold in the Vatican, and the accounts that allegedly all around the world full of gold, and could pay the world debt off so many times over in just one bank account, and there's a few of them. Even though the papacy have recalled their assets, brought to me by Kevin earlier this week. Interesting move. Interesting news.
Yes. Yes, very interesting. Was was it? Well, I say there was 2 reports. They were saying the 30th or 30th or the 1st of October or something like that. But there's loads more on it. They would say, I just thought I'd send you some stuff over, and so I just duck-duck-goed it. There was loads of it in there, all different sources.
It's the 24th. It's the 24th of September.
Girls.
I keep seeing these videos about, it's happening on such and such a day, and now it's here, and what's happened. I keep seeing these dates, and you got to wait. I'm going to get killed for saying this. Anonymous videos and videos prophesizing Nasara Jasara, monetary outlay, Swiss Indo, crashing of the Fed, and
pissing into the window.
Swiss Indo, pissing into the window.
They was actually showing videos of militaries walking on the London Bridge, and they said, happening now, right now in the UK. and I was looking, and it was night. It was totally dark and it was daytime. So it was something old that they are putting up.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen all the 24th. And
Yeah.
then wasn't there something about the 31st as well? 30th, 31st. Anyway, yeah, it's just oh my God.
I think the
Oh,
biggest
what?
happening now
Nothing
on
happened.
24th, it is that announcement you've been doing now. That's the biggest thing happening on the 24th.
Yeah, that's it. That's how exciting it all is.
Yeah.
Still, still got another hour or so for World War III to start, I suppose. Too late in Sweden, isn't it? What are you, Anders? Couple of
Yeah.
hours in front.
I got 7 minutes more to midnight.
All right, so you're only an hour ahead of us at the moment, then.
Yeah. So,
I want to say hello to the
So
new scribes and
you're
to the.
you're safe.
I see. I'm seeing some new names in the chat room. I've made some of you blue and moderators who've been here a while now and have earned the trust. Respect is given by default, but in this day and age, trust has to be earned. And I've made 90% of you blue. You have the spanners. You was in the blue man group. Moderators, so keep an eye on the chat for us and make sure all is well. The wrench crew.
Yeah, we don't allow twats.
Gary has said, it's funny I don't recognise anyone in the chat, trying to remember how I found this channel. Bless you. Thank you, Gary. That's put a smile on my boat race.
Where was that?
It's up in
Let's
the
have a
chat.
look.
I'm just scrolling up, just seeing what's being said. I'd like to mention that we've started the Royal We SPLs, but I am doing it so far, and I'm going to ask Kevin if he wants to join me tomorrow for a wee chat
Uh-oh.
with private mediation. So obviously there's one of me, there's one of
Oh,
Kevin.
right.
Kevin's not 100%. He's on entitlement himself, and he does what he can when he can, as all the admins do. I'm 50 hours in the warehouse across 4 12-hour shifts, in the middle of fabricating and insulating lofts and looking after the family, doing what I need to do and administrating. But with that said, we are here for the Bloods. We're here for the safety of the young stars, and mums and dads fighting is one thing, verbally falling out and breaking up is another. Then obviously the court system, the alternative dispute resolution, Lord Wolfe reforms of the 90s for the civil procedure rules, alternative dispute mediation before court, and that is a pathway and an avenue that I've been down personally. Been approached in the public Telegram chat by a man who's with a lady. The lady has an ex partner, and that ex partner is the father of the siblings, and he's creating waves. So the new fella partner, Soul, has reached out in our Telegram chat, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and see that, and I said I would like to discuss this with you. This is an area that I think could be very much useful and beneficial for all, because we're all family and we all have family, and the young bloods need looking after, and mum and dad fighting and going to court, nobody wins, and it affects the young stars more than we sometimes realise. So private mediation and moving forward that way, I've been emailing and chatting to them. I'm going to have another chat with them tomorrow, and I'm going to be looking at being instructed and authorised to act on behalf, execute deeds, but legally act, and arrange some private mediation. And this will be a test run. There's no fees, no charges. It's not a service, no legal advice, but going to have a look at down the line doing this more often. And if we had some resources, I think in times like where there's not much spare cash. There's too much month left at the end of the money for all of us. We're all highly strung, and I think families are being put under unnecessary pressure with regards to money, food, fuel, diesel, petrol, gas, electric, school uniforms, everything just in the mix at the minute. Inflation, charges, it's just getting beyond a joke, and not many of us are comfortable, if any at all, the circles that we move in. So it's looking like we will look at more community action and mediation with regards to looking after the interests of mums, dads, families in general, and the young bloods, and stopping going to such places as social services, child services, like
Oh,
this, courts, district, judge, circuit judges, and then obviously the money that's involved, the time and the emotion. We could look at trying to formulate a pathway through. So I think the title of this video, "Depression of Recession, Self-Sustain, Avoid the Pain," then that's constantly what we're doing in the background. As much as we want to move to the private and have our equitable relief, that's not our primary objective.
no, it's hard work, all that, and from experience of us being involved in prior stuff, and obviously hearing other people's stories, and you've been there yourself, Dave, with
Yep.
all that family courtship. It's a fucking den of vipers. You stay away from there if you can. If you can mediate outside and agree to whatever, or come to some compromise between what mum wants and what dad wants, then stay out of those places. Get it all down as a signed proper document, so should it go stupid, it can be used, you know. But stay away from them fucks. Excuse my French. No, I'm not going to say that. They deserve it. Horrible. I don't know how those people have even. Well, the definition monster particularly applies when to those humans, which is the same definition, but they are monsters. These people don't know how they live with themselves. I really don't. So we try to keep people away from there, especially the kids. Same goes with social services, but unfortunately, if the social services get involved, 9 times out of 10, you're going down that court road anyway. So you've got to stay away from all that non-private business bollocks, full of demons, dark souls working
Forgive
places
them,
like that.
for they know not what they do. Yes, it's just by default. It's programming, isn't it? We follow, and we are not educated. We are indoctrinated, and we believe that we are doing the right thing, but it's nothing. Those of us that have been there and done it can give first-hand knowledge and evidences of that, and there is no requirement for us to legally interact with anybody we don't want to or wish to, and nipping things in the bud and being proactive rather than reactive is the key. The children, the young stars, are the primary concern. The future and solidarity and safety is our primary concern, and so not furnishing the pockets of the Law Society is another concern, and none of us can afford to do so. It's not honourable, it isn't clear and transparent, there isn't full disclosure. Social services, child services, meddlers, third parties, we've seen it, we've done it a few times, you and I, Kevin, now, and we've even been in the court as a scenario on the telephone to aid and assist, but then when we do that, we're not allowed to speak or even make our presence known. We can just listen, so there's no point even being there. They run the show. Circuit judges are judges out of Westminster that are presiding over matters out of Westminster, so they can show unbiased opinions and manage things effectively with regards to private family law, and we should look at our options of doing this ourselves, basically, as in the private, professionally, and I'm very honoured and privileged to be doing this. And it's simple and it's not messy. There isn't any courts or solicitors or police or charges or child services involved. There's just a father with concerns who's written to the mum to say, he hasn't written to the mum, he's gone to a mediation service. The mediation service have written to the mum saying, you can come and pay us £100, it's voluntary, it's not compulsory, and the father's expressed the need to come to mediation. So then they've reached out to us, and I've said we can look at doing that. We don't want paying. We don't offer services. We'll help out for the good of the young bloods, and we'll use this as a test run. For payment, I'd like some a review, if anything, and you let me know how you think it's gone, and then maybe we get some resources, and we can do this as a sideline to what we're already doing, and teach others to be able to do this, so then others in other communities can follow the process, and it keeps things private, it keeps things simple, it keeps things honourable, it stops the emotional damage being done to the young star's mum and dad, and things are worked out, a resolution is worked out effectively, and honourably, which is what we need to be doing as we've been talking tonight, and for the reasons of that and more.
Yeah, much rather help out in that way or do what we can. It's, as I say, really, it's just a negotiation, isn't it? We're in the middle, keeping it peaceful and impartial. The focus is the kids, as you say, Dave, making sure that it doesn't fuck them up any more than they already are.
That's right. There's mums and dads
Well,
though
that,
to think of as well. Long-term health issues, alcoholism,
yeah,
self-medicating, suicide, depression. It's a slippery slope. We don't need
yeah,
to. You're free to choose to do whatever you want and to see whoever you want. And if you want to seek legal advice and start and to effect legal proceedings and incur money and charges and involve third-party officious intermeddlers, and have your life examined and put out in front for all to see, and fight and have sleepless nights and involved. You know what I mean? There's two parties go to court, and two parties will have briefs, solicitors, attorneys, barristers, etc. But only one party will win. So going to court and having legal counsel is no guarantee of winning the day. All it does is just drag things out, costs a lot of money, wears you down, and is in most instances, when we talk, not necessary. So when we talk of common law courts, this would be democracy in action, and this would be basically common law courts. We are the law. We are crowned as we are born by the waters of mum. We have jurisdiction. We have sovereignty. We are the ones that have the right to choose how to govern our own lives as living souls. If you want to go into the realms of commerce and persons and legalese and courts and judiciary and arbiters and prosecution and barristers and attorneys, then great, then so be it. But I would like to for SPLS Pro and our pathway into the future to be something that would leave a strong, long-lasting legacy to what we're already trying to achieve and build, and to be known for our integrity and our reputation to precede us. And what we turn our hand to is quite often turned into, and I say we, I mean the royal we, and that means everybody that's been on this channel for a while, whether you are with us on our private domain or in our groups or not, the royal we across all platforms, what we turn our hands to, we generally become triumphant with. It takes a bit of time and practice and paying attention as payment, but after that we are pretty astute at what we do, and when we get together and we pool our resources, we're an unstoppable, unmovable force. So I'd like that to continue, and I think that the universe is giving us directions. as I've been contemplating deleting accounts and not doing this anymore because it's hard, it's tiring, it doesn't pay anything, it takes a lot of effort, it's demanding, it's draining. But those are negatives, and those are the reasons why I was thinking of no longer continuing with Indiglo, with the backup channel, with Facebook, with the Telegram groups, and the private domain. And then I meditated on this for a couple of weeks at work. And remember, at work, I'm stuck in a lane where I'm on a big truck, and all I do is go forwards and backwards on the lane and up and down. That's it for 12 hours. I'm in a cab and I pick a pallet and I pull it out and I drop it off. When I drop a pallet off, I pick another pallet up and put that where that pallet was. Then I go and get another pallet and I get that and I go forwards, and it's just really is dire. And I have a lot of time to meditate and think, and a lot of positives came through as to why we should continue on this path, this hero's journey, this quest. And I'm very fortunate to know and have you, Scribes, Kevin, Anders, Albert, Byrne, admins, Lisa, Benza, Jerry. You know, I'm not going to mention everybody, but all of you, and what we do is very much, you know, we get out of it what we put into it. So we continue to proceed, you know, to try to change for the better. I yield.
Yeah, it's not tiring. It's just I don't know. It's going not round in circles either. There's just, you know, everything is up to date with respect to, you know, like DWP stuff and all that. That's solid. You know, re-release stuff if we hear new stuff. I mean, I've got some stuff for grounds for actually valid grounds for refusal of an assessment, which have been used not by us, but yeah, there is now valid grounds for even refusing, which we've always said never refuse, you know. So there is, you know, shit's changing all the time. But yeah, it is, as I say, I don't get on here much. David's got shitload on his plate at the moment. So, you know, it's a bit different in the days of Dave being at home and we'd do something 2 or 3 times a week or more. It's a shame. It is a shame. But yeah, I've been. If it wasn't for the Facebook page, I just sort of keep an eye on that and approve posts and members and stuff like this.
You as the governor of
and
FB
throw up my-
SPLs.
If it wasn't for that, I'd probably just jack FB altogether, to be honest with you. But that's the only reason I'm staying on it. And if you're friends with me on Facebook, you go on my timeline. I can't remember the last time I posted anything. It'll only be a joke anyway, probably something offensive.
Salads. You never saw a salad on a cave painting, I think was one of them.
Oh, mate. I couldn't believe the first comment. I was absolutely smashed in the face with a wrecking ball. I was like, oh my God, what a humorless bastard. Or just didn't get it. I don't know. Oh, look, he put fact at the top. So it must be true. Oh, it was so disappointing. Oh my God. You can just leave. Delete and block you. Or was it, yeah, block user and delete comment. Yeah, that's the one I'll have. Thanks very much. Oh my God. Ridiculous thing to comment on. With a really serious comment, that was the worst, but that was the irony of it. It's like, it's a fucking joke, mate. It's clear, isn't it? You know, who would fucking paint a salad, you twat? Oh, fucking hell. Still. Oh dear. It's all good fun.
It is. I'm looking for some information in an email. I thank you all for your emails. I'm more or less on top of them. I've only a few more, about 80 to go through, which is good for me and respond to. But somebody sent me, amongst the emails that I get, somebody sent me a bonus, something to do with property. Let me find it, and then we're going to look at wrapping up soon, if that's all right. It's been a good two
Yeah,
and a half
fine by
hours.
me, mate.
Yeah.
You're the one doing crazy shit at the moment, working and house and car and Christ knows what else going on in your life, mate.
Oh yeah, I had a DPF light come on a Volkswagen 1.9 diesel, and I ended up looking at YouTube and asking people, "What does this mean? Is it costly? Do I need a new DPF?" And then turns out you get in the handbook and it says when this light initially comes on, if you've just reacted to it coming on, and you've not driven around, travelled around for 100 miles, blocking it up further with soot and particulates, you have to go out on a motorway after warming up the engine and drive around, but for me travel in fourth gear, 2,500 to 3,000 revs, 65, 70 mph, tickling it into fifth, but then dropping it back into fourth and getting the temperatures up. And I ended up clearing it. I got my laptop and got the VCI ODB connector, and through the vehicle communication interface deleted the codes, and all should be well again. But that was a pleasant surprise. If you have a diesel pleasure craft, they do not like short journeys, and the cat or the DPF will get saturated, and not if you don't ever get it up to temperature, you will find that your warning lights come on, and eventually it will just be blocked and get so blocked that you'll have to get a new part, which range from 250 recon flushed out to 650 quid. So you need to be aware of that. That was a surprise that landed on me not so long ago, last week actually, yeah. Which I'm happy to say was fixed and remedied. But hydrogen on the induction that I've got should actually assist with that. But it's a newer horsey. I traded in the blue one, and for 500 bags, 500 pound,
Tan.
and I got a silver one that's now 2010, and it seems to be doing well. Right. Thank you to Robert for this email. Bona Vacantia. It's almost like Vaticana. Let me put it into the chat. Have a search on this, everyone. And thank you to Robert for the email. Bona Vacantia. Okay. It says, I trust you all and the team are well. I've had a very interesting past fortnight. I've been a sole trader business for some 28 years and been with bank all the while. For the past 3 months or so, they've been asking me to update my details with online banking, which I believed I had already done. Everything fine with contact details, etc. Updated one or two things, all was dandy. I've now received a letter statement from them, and the account, which had a substantial balance, not all mine, as I owed about half to pay the trade collector suppliers, the account had been zeroed. They claimed I hadn't properly claimed ownership of the account, and the state have claimed it under bona vacantia, vacant goods. I have had to apply online to the Government Legal Department office based in Croydon for a waiver letter, which I now have, and will have to apply for repayment using another form, blah blah blah. A quick look on company check, and Bona Vacantina Limited office is based at Company's House in Cardiff. Another money grabbing scam, methinks, by the fraudsters of UK government. I'll keep you posted if you like. Have you any other scribes had this happen? So because I'm keeping the details as limited and private,
Yeah.
as Robert's asked this, and I've never heard of it in my life. I'm like, thank you, Robert. Next time we're casting, I will look at Bona Vacantina, present it to the scribes, and he sent me a screenshot International House, 10 Churchill Way, Cardiff, CF10 2HE. Active directors 1. Company's house, this is from, age 3 years, company number 11965866. Bona Vacantina Limited credit report. So thank you for that, and there you go. I yield.
Interesting.
Oh, we've taken your bank account balance off you and your bank account because you didn't claim it. Well, use of it and a card and deposit by credit. We speak of debtor creditor when we give the bank these fiscal notes and pound notes promises. We are crediting the bank. We are actually a creditor in that respect. When we look at the debtor creditor, aside from utility bills, we credit the bank. We credit the bank by depositing money known to us as fiat currency, legal tender, into that bank. We credit the bank. We are the creditors. And this man having it taken off him because of some technicalities and it having a sizable or a substantial balance, then it's being used, it's been maintained and regulated. So it's just a mere technicality, it seems, that they've decided to empty it and take it off him. I'll
Yeah,
leave that.
that funny enough,
Yeah.
my son came. I saw him a couple of 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks ago now, beginning of this month, to be precise. And his boss, the manager of where my son works, he'd had some sort of business set up, company's house and all that. Hadn't done anything, and he got a letter, and all the account, everything. They've taken the lot. That 8 grand. You're not doing anything, but we'll level that. Thanks very much. So that sounds pretty similar.
It's just disgusting what's happening now. Yeah,
We'll just
incredible.
rob you. We'll just rob you, is what we'll do. That can't be right.
Technicalities, as with everything, with legal, how we provide lawful remedy to legal situations, legal claims, charges, positions, dispositions. We look at the lawful side of it. It's what we need to do here legally. They're allowed to do what they want, but is it lawful? Is it just? Is it right?
Yeah.
Is it proper? No. And there's an account
Was
there.
it transparent? Was
It's
it blatantly obvious? Was it blatantly obvious in the conditions that that's what we told you we could do? Stuff like that. That's where you got to go and have a look at it all. But I think that's would still come in the realms of unfair contracts, to be honest. In my opinion, for what it's worth.
The Latin as well. It's always stuck to him. It's like we use a little bit of Latin. That'll confuse them. But you will find if you search Bona Vacantia, .gov UK for unclaimed estates list, and similar to the dead lost at sea 7-year principle. After 7 years, then things can be moved on. So the inclusion of Latin. It's probably some kind of legal maxim, to be fair. You do your research and have a look at that. So vacant goods or ownerless goods, as the chat room have said, property that does not have a clear owner. Well, the owner is clearly the one that is making the credits to the account, that is charging to the account, that is managing the account, where the address. So it seems, I don't know what Robert has got going on there, but for them to have done that seems pretty underhanded and not good. So I just want to bring it up and then pass it.
Yeah, well, if that's the
go on,
if that's the criteria, it's how was it abandoned? What have you based that on?
Well, I go back to the email, it was on about the bank is a sole trader for 28 years and he's been with that bank all the time for 28 years. And for the past 3 months or so, he said they've been asking him to update his details with online banking, which he thought he'd done. And everything was fine when he checked with the contact details. It just a couple of one or two things. So if you don't update the details, and how did the bank know that they're incorrect? Or they must be missing fields. There must be areas of the account which don't have the data what they require to have. So he's then received a statement from them regarding the account, which had a substantial balance, and they've zeroed it, and they've claimed he didn't say they took the account off him. They've zeroed it, is what his words were, and they claimed that he hadn't properly claimed ownership of the account, and the state then have claimed it under bona vacantia, vacant goods.
Fuck
So then he's had to
that.
go to the government legal office based in Croydon for a waiver, which this is just incredible. It's just mere technicalities.
Unreal. Fuck you about. Well, they got that money earning them a bit of interest. Cunts.
Oh, he's hit a nerve. We've hit a nerve. He said the C word.
Sorry. I'm not sorry.
Swearing's good now and again. It's all right. What would we call them?
Yeah.
Exclamation marks.
Exclamation marks. That's what they are. Oh, right. Before I forget, and while there's a brief pause, what sort of time are you talking about tomorrow?
I've said afternoon to talk to Sandra and Andy. So we're going out in the day, in the morning, doing a bit of hunting, gathering, shopping, and then getting back, eating, and then early mid-afternoon, something like that. Are you free? Is
Oh,
that good?
no,
All right.
it isn't tomorrow. I'm going out from about 11 till about 5, maybe back a bit earlier, but going to a classic car thing tomorrow with Mike. Mike is coming over to pick me up, so that's the only. Otherwise, after that, no problem.
Well, I will record the chat, and then maybe I'll set a group up with us all in, and then at your leisure you can then listen to the recording when you get some time, or I'll summarize it and it'll be there. Then we can just
Yeah.
text input. So we'll
All right.
compromise. Yeah, you have a lovely day, and I will see to those issues, and then I'll form a chat in Telegram, and you can pick up on that. All right, if that, and then as and when we chat again, then it'll be there for us to reconvene. But
No worries.
continue on, reconvene. Who do I think I am?
Excellent.
And
I don't
before we
know.
go, I wanted to show these books. Interesting, very interesting. Wait, gallery. We'll try that. That one first. Have you heard of Montauk? Do you see the post I did earlier?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Montauk Chronicles and Montauk.
Yeah.
There's a few films out there on the, and I just want to read the back. The Montauk Project chronicles the most amazing and secretive research project in recorded history, starting with the Philadelphia experiment of 1943. Invisibility experiments were conducted aboard the USS Eldridge that resulted in full-scale teleportation of the ship and crew. 40 years of massive research ensued, culminating in bizarre experiments at Montauk Point that actually tapped the powers of creation and manipulated time itself. The Montauk Project bridges the modalities of science with the most esoteric techniques ever imagined, and finally catapults us to the threshold of the stars. We all know something is out there, but we are not sure exactly what. This book, at long last, begins to provide some solid clues. And if you've ever seen on one of the streaming programs, outlets, if you've ever seen a show called Stranger Things. When I saw that, this is why I bought this, because I was like, this is just essentially, there's some diagrams in there as well, about, some kinds of machines, chairs that they put in, and there's lots of like other such technicality diagrams there. Preston Nichols with Peter Moon. So that's interesting to me. I know many of you are along these lines as well. Not necessarily so far out there, but there is even a chapter, I'm happy to see, about Tesla. And then this one, this is the Philadelphia Experiment and Other UFO Conspiracies by Brad Steiger with Alfred Bielik and Sherry Hansen Steiger. And it looks a little bit like that. In October 1943, the US Navy secretly accomplished the teleportation of a warship from Philadelphia to a dock near Norfolk by successfully applying Einstein's unified field theory. The experiment also caused the crew and officers of the ship to become invisible, during which time they were sent to a time-space warp into another dimension. The majority of the crew continued to experience devastating side effects for the rest of their lives, becoming invisible. I'm like, what? That's not so bad, surely. And catching on fire. But that one, okay, then, yeah, nobody wants that. For the first time, a survivor of the experiment tells his personal story and how the project was actually the end result of alien technology. The book also covers other classified top-secret CIA, NSA projects, including genetic cloning, age regression and progression, time travel, as well as a host of other topics related to the UFO cover-up. That's my escapism for the next week or two.
Nice. Get it down, yeah.
UFO technology, it's slowly being given to us, disclosures, but the one thing that's on my mind why they don't disclose is that if they disclosed they had anti-grav 0 point type technology, of which is unfathomable to us, but we got a basic grasp of what it is, then what would happen to gas and electric charges and bills? How would energy markets be transformed if we all suddenly could extract from the atomic, subatomic fields and modality fields energy? Then we wouldn't be paying them all these monies, would we? And we look at Ofgem and Ofcom and these ones that put the caps on, and it turns out they're government corporations and agencies as well. So they could never knowingly tell us they have government tech, alien tech, the governments, because then
smells.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, listen, what we get, as I say, I read this some time ago. What we get sort of every 4 years, the military are like 70 years ahead. They've got everything.
Indeed, yes. It's terrible to think. Yeah, and agencies. 1974 New York Times printed that the CIA had been conducting secret mind control experiments on the public, unbeknown to them. It's not fact. It's not. I mean, it is fact. It's not conspiracy theory or hokum. These things actually have happened and been put into the public domain. President Clinton, apologized for certain things going off. I've said search Tavistock for England and a Tavistock Institute. Things are not as they seem, down to the fact of the use of colours and sounds, and things that seem quite benevolent that aren't. It's just, yeah, what's out there. It's just that's not for tonight or now. We're closing down. We're on the long goodbye. But what they have and what they do, yeah, they're not conscionable. They're not friendly, and they militarise it, yes, and weaponise it before we get it. Yes, it's released to the public. Stephen Greer, Bob Lazar. There's quite a good one actually. I've seen by Stephen Greer a couple of 3 now over the years, and the seedling ones as well. So if you're into this area, it's a nice form of escapism alongside Romans and monarchies and judges and the blackness of it all. It's something to chew on and to escape aliens, UFO, the actual disclosure of the Tic Tac from the Department of Defence or Ministry of Defence. Starseeds out there. And on a submarine, I'm talking to someone who's worked on a submarine, just linking on, Segway 4, and he was on about the XO, my XO. I'm like, what, you're speaking to me like I've been on a crewman on a submarine. What is an XO? He's like, oh, that's the executive officer. I'm like, you what? Okay, so you have a chief executive officer on the submarine, just like you have in a company, Admiralty, Sea, Submarine, Maritime. You couldn't get it any more specific than that. And the XO is the chief commanding officer, chief commanding executive officer. So the executive officer is the chief, the commanding officer, however you want to deem it, on the submarine. I'm like, I'll mention that to the scribes. Thank you very much. They're not CEO, just XO.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the chat room then and just say thank you to you all. This is it now. Like, we're going to shut off at 11:30 GMT. This is your 2-minute warning.
You're late.
Montauk chair. Look at that. That sparked some better than the dad jokes we did at the end of the last show.
Yeah, excuse me. You can remove me from that statement. I made no dad jokes at the end of the last one.
We made royal we.
Went into one. The royal we, yeah.
Anders had some beauties. Anders, why does the Scandinavian Navy have barcodes on their fleet?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I was in the infantry.
So they can scan the Navy in.
Yeah.
Montauk chair.
Fuck off.
Hey, we are 1 minute to go.
Do you know how to sink an English submarine?
No.
You dive down there and then you knock on the door.
Shut up. I'll let you do that. Lisa wants a hoverboard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. Let's go back to the future.
Menza heard the royal family used that to reincarnate their bloodline. Also heard they artificially inseminate Kate's children could be Phillips and others. Oh, wow. I didn't need to see that. Oh, thank you, Menza.
Oh, behave, Mensa. That's it. That's disgusting. Outrageous. Oh, dear. Nice.
11:33 now, not by my clock. It says on there, it says 23:30, but thank you for the warnings. Do you want final words, Kevin and Gansders?
Yes, I want to have a final word. Good night.
Excellent.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it for what it was. Just a bit of a sprint around the estate and see what's going on and a little bit of good news. So, yeah, love to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to see all of you. Especially nice to see Lisa and James in the room. I haven't seen them for ages. But thanks to all of you. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the chats. See you real soon.
Okay.
Good night, all. Be well. Hasta mañana, as they say. Until tomorrow.
Yes.
And we'll be back soon. Watch out for the community pages for updates. Make sure you're with us on some of the domains that we have, Telegram, Facebook, or our private domain, and we will be back soon. Thank you to Anders and Kevin for your company tonight, alongside the scribes. Thank you to Kevin for governing the FBL, FB, SPLs.
That group.
Yeah. Much love. Bless you, bro. And we'll speak at some point tomorrow or next week.
No worries. Love to you all.
Big up your bad self. Ciao. Much love.
How do I end this? Oh yeah, I've got to leave, and I bye.